Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Hayes, you claim the defendant owes you $430 for babysitting that you did for her daughter.
Correct.
How did you find her as a babysitter?
Well, we were very good friends at the time.
And?
And we were very good friends, and she moved into the front house, my boyfriend's rental house, and her rent was raised up.
So she was your boyfriend's tenant?
Right. And her rent was up a little bit from where she was living, and it made it more difficult for her to be able to pay the daycare that she was paying, which she told me was $80 a week. And she asked me one day if I would do it for $50 a week. And I agreed.
Nice.
I agreed.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to have your turn. Go ahead.
I agreed because I'm a single mother. I was not working. I needed the money, and I wanted to try and help her out because we were friends, and I thought it was helping each other out.
So you started to babysit.
Uh-huh.
How long did you babysit?
I'd say approximately about 10 weeks. I did not.
Approximately.
It was a 10-week period. I don't know I know it was from May to July, but I didn't pay attention because it was through friends. It was just a verbal agreement. I didn't document the exact dates, but I was counting the weeks as they went on.
Did you babysit every day?
I believe it was 3 to 4 days a week.
According to your complaint, months went by or weeks went by and there was no payment.
And then I started asking for a payment, and she told me that she hadn't received a check from her husband's company yet for her child support. And so I said, okay, well, I'll continue. And then as time went on, she started bringing things home that she was buying and such and showing them to me. And I would ask her for $20 one day because I didn't have any money to feed my child that night, and she didn't have any money to give me. So I said, well, I'm going to have to discontinue the daycare because I need some money too, and I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So then I discontinued the daycare. We stopped speaking for a while.
Is that why you stopped speaking?
Basically. We stopped speaking for a while, and then one day I came home and found $70 cash in an envelope, unmarked envelope, on my door. I assumed it came from her. So
did it?
Yes, it did.
So after a while, I thought, the pressure, the tension was just too much. Living next to each other, we were friends. I wanted us to remain friends. And so I asked again if she could give me any more money towards the outstanding balance, and I sent her a collection letter at that time. And she didn't respond because I sent it certified and there was no pickup. So we stopped speaking once again, and I sent her this collection letter, in which I have, if you'd like to read it. And this one states basically the whole story. And it's very nice, it's very professional, and I just wanted her to know that I was serious, that I would go file a claim if she didn't make some type of compensation.
Well, but I need more specific dates from you than you've given me about May.
I just know from May to July.
Well, the beginning of May, the middle of May.
Yeah, I would say the middle of May through July.
Now it's your turn.
I have receipts from the daycares that she was going to. Jackie offered to watch her. She volunteered to watch her a couple days a week to help me out because I was not receiving child support yet from my soon-to-be ex-husband.
Okay.
There was no set rate. There was no set days. There was no set weeks. She would always offer to cook, and she loved to barbecue. She'd have people over whenever at her boyfriend's house. I have, there was no 10 weeks. There was maybe the most 2.5 weeks at the most.
I disagree
with that. And she was paid $70.
Well, let me see. You say you have receipts from daycare during the periods of part of May, June, and July.
Right. My grandma has always watched my daughter from day one.
I mean, are you saying that this was not a daycare, this was your grandmother?
My grandmother watched, no, she started off watching her when I first got a job.
I'm talking about during that period of time.
Yes,
during this period of time, May, June, and July.
Yes, I have receipts.
From whom?
From the daycare my daughter goes to.
From a professional daycare person or daycare provider. Can I see them, please? How many days a week were you working at that time?
5 days a week.
And how many days a week was your daughter going to daycare, this professional daycare?
The professional one, 3 days a week, and my grandmother would watch her 2 days.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about grandma. Well, you have something here that seems to be a full balance with tuition and how many payments you made starting August 6th. Mm-hmm. Who was that from?
That's from the school she goes to right now, Sherry's preschool.
And this is August of 96 that you're referring to.
See, the week that I discontinued the daycare,
She
she
started
started going to
someplace
Sherry's.
else. Well, that's what this seems to say, August of 96. But I have to have some more specifics from you, Ms. Hayes. And that is, how many days a week?
I want to say it was 3 days, sometimes 4. Her grandmother did take her, I believe it was on Tuesdays.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
I had her at least 3 days a week, sometimes 4.
For full days?
For full days. I was
Why
at
did
her
you
house
give-
at 7 in the morning, and she would pick her up between 5 and 5:30 in the evening.
So you went to pick her up?
I would pick her up, yes.
She volunteered to do this that way also her son has someone to play with.
No, I
Not
don't believe
for
that. I don't
free,
believe
I'm
that
sorry.
that's true, Miss Normandin.
No, I never said it was for free.
Right. I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that you watch
She was
another
paid
child.
$70. It
I
wasn't
don't
for free.
listen to me. I don't believe that you watch another child for 10 hours. How old is your daughter?
She's 3.
You don't watch a 3-year-old for 10 hours without being compensated, even for a friend.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She gave a phone number also.
So, what do you expect me to do? You want me to get off the bench and go call her?
Jacqueline Hayes says she never got paid for babysitting Michelle Normandin's daughter. They used to be friends.
You have shown me a receipt that you started the daycare, formal daycare, in August, which pretty much coincides with what the plaintiff says. Therefore, I believe that you did have an arrangement, and your arrangement was to pay her $50, which I think was more than generous, on a 10-hour day, watching a child, a 3-year-old toddler. You paid her $70. Certainly, in June and July alone, we have 4 1/3 weeks. That's almost 10 weeks right there. Part of May, you said, the middle of May, even giving her the benefit of the doubt that you started the end of May. That is your 10 weeks.
But here she was at Brenda's daycare, family daycare in Torrance until June 14th.
Listen to me. I don't believe that for 2 reasons. First of all, it's on a plain piece of paper, and I don't know who wrote it. Somebody who runs a business, a daycare center, a formal daycare center, has a letterhead. They have a letterhead that says this is what they are. They're licensed, right? This is on a plain piece of paper. I could have typed that in my den last night.
She gave a phone number also.
So, what do you expect me to do? You had to bring a witness. You want me to get off the bench and go call her? If I went and called her, would she tell me that in the entire month of June, your daughter was there 5 days a week? Is that what she would tell me?
She didn't say the whole entire
Just
month
a
of
second.
June.
Just a second. Maybe that's a good idea. If I went and called this lady, whose telephone number appears here, would she tell me that in the month of June, your daughter was there 5 days a week?
Not 5 days a week. No, my grandmother watched her the remaining other 2 days.
I don't believe that.
Well,
Your grandmother lives clearly in this area. If you had a witness, you bring a witness.
she has hip problems. That's why she continues to not watching her no more. That's why she goes to day's care full time.
Hip problem doesn't prevent you from coming to court. Hip problem may prevent you from running after a 3-year-old toddler, but doesn't prevent you from coming to court. It's just convenient. All right. She owes you $500. She paid you $70. $430. Did I get that right, Bird?
You got it right.
$430?
That was very quick.
4:30.
Judgment is for the plaintiff for $430.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was very hard living next door to each other. Our kids wanted to play together. They weren't able to because we weren't speaking. It was very, very difficult. I enjoyed her daughter. She's a wonderful girl. And I really enjoyed the time. But I needed to be paid as well as I was trying to save her money. Friends need to really take a look at each other and just show more respect for the ones that really care.
And now, the next case.
Parties on Costanza versus Altshuler. Step forward.
Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altshuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
You 2 gals were former roommates, shared an apartment together. According to your complaint, your former roommate owes you for half a month's rent and half the security on an apartment that you shared together.
Yes.
You say that you gave her a check for your half of the month's rent. So far, is that correct?
Right.
And that she was supposed to pay the entire month's rent. You wrote a check for the entire month's rent. You gave it to the landlord, correct?
Correct.
And then you had a fight and you stopped payment on the check.
Well, it wasn't like a fight. It was when I decided to give her notice that I would be moving out at the end of the month.
But you stopped payment on the check.
After her threats and...
I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to the fluff of this story in a minute. But bottom line, you stopped payment on the check, and you kept the money, right?
Right.
Which included the half that she had given you.
Right.
Well, why'd you do that for?
Because I took my part of the security deposit and paid the rest of the bills that she mailed back to my parents' house.
Well, but you can't do that. She gave you the money to pay the rent.
And I had full intentions of paying the rent until she just completely blew up and threatened me, saying that I couldn't step foot anywhere near there. And so that's when I decided to
All
stop.
right, let's go back. How long did you live together?
A month.
All right, what happened? What was your argument about? When did it take place?
Well, I'm not sure what the threats are, but we had a dispute when she told me she was moving out. Just, I guess I was upset that she was moving out, and I said, well, you know, you have to pay the rent. She said she would, and she did for about 2 weeks. And then,
How did she pay the rent for 2
well,
weeks?
she paid the rent and then stopped payment. I found out at the end of the month.
The end of the second month?
Yes, July. My landlady had informed me that the payment was stopped on the check and that I needed to repay the rent, or someone was responsible. And I told her to return the keys, and she would not. I said, you don't live there. I think that you need to give them back. She took about a month.
Was she living in the apartment at the time?
No.
So this was after that all happened?
It was like the same day that she had moved all her stuff out. I called and said, you need to return the keys.
I see. And what day of the month was
July
that?
2nd.
And this was the rent for the month of July?
Yes.
When she wasn't going to be there, but you had already given her your half of the rent for that month?
Yes. On June 30th, I believe it was.
Okay. And how much was the security deposit that you put into the apartment?
It was $500 total, $250 each.
And how much was your part of the rent?
$307.50.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Two people who don't love each other should never room together.
Right.
But that's always a terrible beginning to a live-in situation. That's what keeps me in business.
Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altschuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
I had full intentions of paying the month's rent. I told her on July 1st that I would be moving out at the end of the month. She freaked out, so I moved all my stuff out that day with still full intentions of paying the month's rent. And then she started to, you know, that's when she asked for the keys. I mailed the keys. They came back to me. Then I mailed them again certified so that she would receive them. She, she just said that I couldn't step foot near there. Why would I pay a month's rent if I wasn't allowed to, you know, go anywhere near
Well,
there?
I'm not even talking about your part of the month's rent. Let's not even talk about that. Let's talk about the money she gave you to pay for July. You kept that.
For my part of the security deposit.
But maybe you weren't going to get back the security deposit if you were breaking your lease without any notice.
It was a month to month.
But you're supposed to give notice even on a month to month.
That was my mistake. I didn't give notice to the landlord. I gave notice to her, and I know that. That was my mistake.
But you're supposed to give notice, because if you don't give notice, then everybody loses the security deposit. What happened with the security deposit?
It was forfeited for July's rent, and there's still $115 outstanding. I have the lease here that she signed.
Can I take a look at it?
And it says on a month-to-month tenancy there. It's highlighted.
Thank you. You signed a lease. The lease says you're supposed to give the landlord 30 days notice. You didn't give the landlord 30 days notice because you said you moved out on the 2nd of July.
Right.
Well, even if you gave the landlord 30 days notice, that wouldn't be until the 2nd of August. Right?
Right.
So whether you gave her notice or whether you gave the landlord notice, you're still responsible for that rent. You are responsible for the rent for that month. Did you move into another apartment?
No, I moved back into my parents' house.
Got to read everything really carefully. How old are you?
19.
Okay. So it's a good lesson. You understand that?
Yes, but her side also, when you have someone that's threatening you bodily harm and spitting on you and stuff, and you want to get your money back, you understand that she tried to do it right. She paid the rent even though she was moving out. Granted, because she didn't do it to the landlord, it's wrong.
Stand up here.
Just because she didn't do it to the landlord, we agree that's wrong, but when someone threatens bodily harm and tries to spit on
I
it...
am pregnant.
You were.
And you were not there.
We have every message, word by word, written down.
Are you Miss Alchula?
O'Brien.
Oh, Miss O'Brien. Two people who don't love each other should never room together.
Right.
Right. I don't know how long these young ladies knew each other before they decided to move in together. I don't know what the circumstances were, but that's always a terrible beginning to a live-in situation. That's what keeps me in business, these roommate situations.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altschuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
The plaintiff did, in fact, give her half of the rent, $307.50. The deposit, the security deposit, was forfeited because they didn't give 30 days notice to the landlord. When did you finally leave the apartment?
My last day would have been August 9th. I went through the walkthrough with her, with my landlady. I moved out, I think, on the 5th. I had another place I was moving into.
So it's because she used it for rent, as opposed to, Darlena knew once she threatened her that she's never going to give her a deposit back. So what we should have done...
Who are you?
I'm her friend, and I've been there a lot more than she has. Darlena's mom was not there while any of this was going on, supposedly threatening. And I think Darlena's old enough to take care of herself. And I think, she's pregnant. Okay, if there's any threatening, it's verbal, and you can deal with verbal since you've done the same thing back. And I'm sorry, but you weren't there. I was there. I was there.
Oh, so you listened to the messages?
No, I was there. I've heard the
made?
message that she left to Claire.
That's funny, because I was there when she
Listen
left.
to me.
Darlena's an adult. She can do it herself.
Your daughter made a poor choice of roommates.
Right.
She didn't get hurt. She safely moved back into the house. You cross it off to a bad experience and you learn from it. That's what you teach children as they're growing up. If you make a bad move, you try to learn from it and not recreate those mistakes as you get older. So the next time she will look further into the background of a roommate. And I'm not saying there was anything wrong with you. I'm just saying if that's the case, you look further before you jump into a situation where you expose yourself to living with somebody that you really don't know. She should learn from this experience. And the experience is going to cost her, I'm so bad in math, $557.50. Judgment is for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge
7 on the calendar in the matter of Opp versus Gallagher. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Well, this is some story, depending upon the version. Bottom line, Miss Opp, you are suing the defendant, Mr. Gallagher, because you say he assaulted you on a recent trip to Mexico.
Yes.
Why you were there is somewhat in dispute. We'll get to that in a minute. He says that you assaulted him first. Something that you don't really deny in your papers.
Yes, I did.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Were you his girlfriend?
We were girlfriend and boyfriend.
For how long? Before you took this trip, this fateful
Probably
trip?
a year and a half.
What were you doing in Mexico?
We originally went down there to get him some steroids and some medicine that takes you off of steroids.
No, that's not true, Your Honor.
Well, I'll get to you in a second. All right, so tell me when you left. You left for Mexico on what day of the week?
We left on the 17th. I don't remember what day of the week that was.
Oh, was it on a weekend?
I don't even remember.
Were you planning on spending a few days there?
No, we just went there for the day to pick up his steroids.
So you left in the morning?
Yeah.
What time did you get there?
I think it was around 10.
In the
11.
morning?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Tell me about the day.
We got there and we went to the pharmacy to look for his stuff, and he wanted to find a doctor where he could get his steroids, and that took an hour or two, and then we went, had some tacos, drank a few beers, and basically that took a couple more hours. Then we went to a strip bar. We had previously talked about me dancing, and I said no, I'm not comfortable with it.
Well, tell me, that's what I find so interesting about this case. You went to a few strip bars and you talked about you dancing.
Well, before we went to the strip bar, we talked about it.
What was the conversation?
He wanted to see me dancing.
No.
Go ahead.
He wanted to see me dance because it was kind of like a fantasy thing between us. He just wanted to see it. I wasn't a dancer. He'd never seen me on a stage. And I told him if I did do it, I would need to drink a lot in order to get up there. And so we went to the strip bar. I drank a lot. And
you got pretty drunk?
I don't really get drunk because I get sick really easy, but I got tipsy. Definitely. I had to relax in order to do it.
Okay.
And so I drank. He said, come on, keep doing it, go do it. And finally I did it. I went up there and I danced. And when I got down...
At the strip bar?
Yes. And
Bambi's.
Do you have to... I mean, can anybody just go there and do this? Do you have to ask a manager?
Anybody can do it. There was other American girls there doing it too. And there was a bunch of Marines. It wasn't...
Okay. Feels foolish now, doesn't it?
I'd never done it before.
Oh, okay.
And it was supposed to be something private between him and I, and it didn't end up that way.
So what happened? You danced?
I danced. I was done. We went to another bar, and he's like, do it here, and we're sitting there, and there was a girl dancing in front of us, and he says, give me $1, I want to tip her. I said, I'm not going to give you $1 to tip her. Use your own money. And we got into an argument from that point on. So we walked out of the strip bar, and we're arguing on the street, and he called me a whore. And I said, how could you call me a whore? You're the one who talked me into doing this. And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I shouldn't have said that. Hit me. And I go, no. And he goes, hit me, you're a whore. And he just kept saying it. Finally, I hit him. I mean, we were arguing. It wasn't just a calm thing.
So you hit him?
So I hit him.
Where'd you hit him?
I'm sorry?
Where did you hit him?
In the face.
One time or more than one time?
One time. And then he called me a whore and told me, hit me again. So I hit him one more time. And then we grabbed a taxi.
3 times.
And then we grabbed a taxi, and we were driving back because we were going to get in trouble at that point. And he started calling me a whore again. So instead of hitting him, I grabbed my clog off my foot and hit him over the head. So I went and hit him in the face. But tempers were not good, and he kept calling me a whore. And
he was pretty drunk too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
you get to the border.
We get to the border, and things have calmed down. We're back on this side. It's kind of over. I said I had to go to the bathroom before we go back, and in the parking lot where you park, there's a public restroom, and we went in there, and he starts arguing, and he's talking about it, and I said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to argue. It's over. Let's just go home. It's been a bad day. And I tried to get out of the bathroom because I was done, and he wouldn't let me out of the bathroom. He kept arguing with me. And so I went to open the door, unlock the door, and get out. So it was hot and stinky. It's gross in there. And he wouldn't let me out. Finally, he grabbed me, and he pulled me away from the door and shoved me against the wall. And then that's when the back of my head hit the wall, and I passed out. And he was yelling at me, stop it, you're faking it, you're faking it. And I was looking at him saying, I'm not faking it, I'm passing out right now. And I was slumping down to the ground. And when I came to, because I kind of went out, when I came to, I noticed my hearing was gone. And then I became hysterical because I didn't know what was wrong. I'd never even heard of a ruptured eardrum. I didn't know what it was. I thought I had gone deaf for some reason. And I started screaming to him. We walked back to the car. He finally let me out, and we started to drive away. I said, take me to a hospital. This isn't normal. There's something wrong with me. Take me to a hospital. And he said, no, I'm not, you're fine. You're faking it. And so I grabbed my cellular phone because he was going to take me to the hospital to dial 911, and he grabbed the phone and wouldn't let me call. And so because he wouldn't go to the hospital, I opened the door and pretended I was going to jump out. In order to let him know that I was serious, I needed to go to the hospital.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Opp is suing ex-boyfriend John Gallagher, claiming he punctured her eardrum during a fight over her amateur stripping debut.
So you have medical bills that you want him to pay for?
Yes.
What were your medical bills?
One's the doctor's bill, which is $228.64. One is the lab bill, which is $267.24. And then there's the emergency hospital bill, which is $1,306.
Okay, Mr. Gallagher. You had enough water, sir?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Good.
Go to the bathroom?
Let's hear your story. You
right,
went to Mexico.
I'll tell you the real version of the story. Actually, it started about a week before the date we went down. I can't recall the date, but the week prior, she had gone down to Mexico with a girlfriend named Melissa, done the same thing. She'd been flirting with the idea of possibly trying, dancing at nightclubs. And, can't blame her. She's, pretty attractive and can make a lot of money at it. So they had gone down and came back and told me the story how she had gotten up on stage. And I don't think she actually meant to, but she ended up getting up on stage and she made a bunch of money. And she was kind of excited. And it probably was a fantasy thing also, but we decided to go down on that Saturday.
How much is a bunch of money? I'm just
She
curious.
had a lot of crinkled $1 bills, but I'm sure more than 100 of them.
$80. $80. It's not a lot of money.
She's probably on there for like 5 minutes and made $80.
This was before you made
I'd gone
$80
the
when you went
weekend
down there
before
with the girlfriend.
With my girlfriend, I told him about it, and he said, I want to do that. And we talked about it.
So
and
you
I
went
said,
down
No,
the week
she
before
wanted
with
to-
Shut up.
I said that I wasn't really comfortable with it.
But you went down a week before you made $80.
Right.
So she wanted me to go down with her.
I'm going to
as-
charge you for the water.
Can I get something better? So, I'm a little nervous. She wanted me to go with her, partly as protection. Melissa couldn't go, and also a fantasy thing. But we didn't go down in the morning, and we did not go down to buy steroids. It's a lie. We didn't go down to buy steroids. We actually went down. It was dark out when
Ask
we
him
were
to take
driving.
his jacket off.
Yeah. We went.
What?
While we were there, we did go down, but it wasn't in the morning. It was dark out. It was probably like 7 or 8 o'clock when we started driving down. She drove her car, and we did stop at the border, and we parked in that parking lot and took the red bus. It's just this red bus you take in. It's like a mile. It costs $1. And I did buy some pharmaceuticals there. They were not steroids. I didn't go down to buy steroids. Then we started drinking, and actually went to a taco bar across the street from the strip bars, and we had some beers, and we went to, I think, 2 other bars and drank a lot of tequila. We did get pretty drunk. And she got her courage up, and she really wasn't sure if she was going to do this, and maybe I did, provoke her a little bit to do it. We went to the first bar, I think it was Bambi's. And arrangements were made for her to go on stage, and she went on the backstage.
So let me stop you. How were arrangements made? Look. How
went
were
up-
arrangements made for her to go on the stage?
I was kind of like her agent.
Well, Mr. Gallagher, that's a conclusion, sir. Tell me exactly what you did to make these arrangements.
Grabbed one of the guys, like the Mexican guys that worked there that spoke English, and said she wants to dance. And then at first they look at her and like, yeah, but they try to play hardball. No, we can't have her up. And we negotiate back and forth.
What do you negotiate about?
Just to get her on,
What negotiating usually involves money.
Yeah, well, she's gonna
So
make
let me
money.
hear.
He wanted free
Oh,
drinks.
free beers for me.
Just a second. So you negotiated with one of the proprietors, or
I drank free, she got to dance. That was the negotiation. Oh, she got to drink free too, that was a given. And so we negotiated she was going to go on the backstage. I think she wanted to get on the front stage where she would make more money and have more exposure, this little room in the back with a small backstage. She gets up there and takes her clothes off, and hell breaks loose. I mean, they can't believe what they're seeing. She's very beautiful. I mean, the whole bar moves to the back where it's getting crowded while she's dancing and going off. And I mean, bottles start flying, and people are like getting so close to each other. And I mean, it was like a madhouse. And she starts, dancing. And I got, kind of jealous of her, to see her doing that.
so you got angry.
I got angry and I got jealous. It was
Seriously?
painful. No,
Seriously?
I didn't get angry. I tried to keep in perspective. Tried to. And
But you had a lot of booze.
we were getting drunk. We were drinking.
Well, she wasn't drinking when she was up there dancing, but you were continuing to drink when
She
she
was
was
drinking when
up.
she got down, though.
But you were drinking while she was dancing.
Yeah, but not
Okay.
as much as her.
She came down and you got angry. Tell me what happened.
No, I
when
didn't get angry. When she came down, we decided to go to another bar where she could do the same thing because it was kind of wearing thin there and it got kind of violent. They were going crazy when they saw her. So we went to a bar next door.
Were you fond of this lady?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not registered. Maybe it's my puritanical upbringing. That's not funny. That's not meant to be funny, sir. I just don't understand a man who would encourage the fact that I think she's nuts for wanting to do it in the first place.
Well, that's
but
what
a
she does
man
now.
who would encourage someone who he's fond of, negotiate, act as her agent.
Well, I make sure she's okay, you know, and nothing would take place. I wasn't gonna let anyone hurt her.
That's not what I'm talking about, sir. Usually there's a certain proprietary interest that
Well,
men
that's what
have
she does
in their
now.
women and women have in men that they like.
It was in
I
the
don't
secrecy.
quite understand you.
It was in the secrecy of Mexico, where she would remain.
Order.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go. And
His inhibition.
All right. Yours
she
too.
drugged me
Listen,
down there.
you went there before without him.
Yes.
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 Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That sounds pretty reasonable
That's
to me.
why I asked
Both
him to-
acted like idiots.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Gallagher admits he became jealous when his girlfriend Julie danced in a strip club, but he says he didn't mean to cause the injury to her eardrum.
I want you to tell me she assaulted you because you called her a whore. Is that right?
In the second bar, I made the horrible mistake of calling her a whore. I did. It was
Okay.
horrible.
And tell me about the assault that took place on you.
Well, first, she lied because I didn't just hand the girl money. I was standing there, I felt guilty. I'm next to this girl dancing, and I took one of her dollar bills that she'd just earned of hundreds, and I gave her one. And she got jealous and was pissed off.
Were you injured when she hit you?
The first 2 times she's hitting like a girl, it didn't hurt, and I did say, yeah, you hit like a girl, hit me again. She hit me again. Third time, she belted me so hard, my lip just exploded. Blood was coming out. And it almost knocked me down. Believe it or not, she can hit pretty good.
Okay, and what
So-
about hitting you with the clog in your head? She
The
said
third
she hit you
hit
with the
was the
clog.
clog.
Federales are coming, and it's an urgency, so they stuff us in a cab, and we're driving, but we just keep arguing in the cab, arguing back and forth, and she hits me in the back of the head with a clog, and I barely remember that, except the next day I had a big bump on my head. We get through the United States, like she said, we go to the parking lot to use the bathroom before wherever we're going to go. We're going to drive. We're both drunk. And she gets passionate again. We start arguing. We had moments of calm and fury where we kind of calm down. And she's that way. She can fight good. So, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth. I
better
was
tell me.
drunk at the time. I can't remember every detail that occurred. But I know that she was starting to get angry again. And I don't know if she was going to hit me or I thought she was going to hit me or she tried to. Can't remember. But I know that I grabbed her and I picked her up. And she was wrestling. And she went limp.
This was in the bathroom.
In the bathroom. And she was flailing, and I was drunk, and I didn't know that she hit her head. She just went limp in my hands. And she sunk down to the ground on her butt. And she sat there and looked up at me, and then she started to say she couldn't hear. And I really thought she was embellishing something. I didn't believe her at first. And she started to cry and scream and get more hysterical. And I didn't believe that she was hurt.
Ultimately, you took her to the hospital.
Now, ultimately, we ended up at the hospital. Her injuries are obviously real. The doctor found out that she had a bruise here in the back of her left ear, I think. Left ear. And she was, I don't know if she lost hearing or not.
What did you originally offer to pay her to
When the bills
help
came, we'd
offset-
split it.
You'd split it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable
That's
to
why I
me.
asked
Both
him to-
acted like idiots. It sounds pretty reasonable
asked
to me
him
that you
to-
should split
yeah.
it.
She probably did hit her head as a result of me lifting her up. I don't think on purpose. I know on purpose I didn't try to hurt her.
After you arrived back in the United States and after this whole incident, did you continue to see each other?
Yes.
For how long?
About 4 more months until I kept catching him cheating on me. So I finally,
So you saw each other for 4 months after
Right.
that. You had
Okay.
already gotten these bills.
yes, I'd gotten it, and he's given me $25 on those
50.
bills.
I gave you 50.
25.
Did you ever take up this dancing as an occupation?
That's
Yes.
what I'm doing now.
Good, too.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie wants her former boyfriend John Gallagher to pay the medical bills for an injury he caused when he became jealous over her appearance in Tijuana strip club.
I read medical bills at $1,800.
And then also, I was suing him for $300 because I had to get a restraining order against him.
That's your problem. Listen to me. Miss Opp, I think you made a big mistake. I think this whole escapade in Mexico was a big mistake, and I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying to you that getting drunk, and engaging in bar dancing with your boyfriend is not something that's designed to solidify a relationship in normal terms. Maybe I'm missing something. My kids might say to me, you know, you're operating in the 40s and 50s and 60s, Mother, but I don't think so. I think still people who care for each other don't want to see other people slipping dollar bills in somebody's panties.
It wasn't that
Do you
bad.
know what I mean? Sarah, and certainly not acting as their agent, which is, to me, almost like acting under these circumstances like a pimp.
It was pretty innocent.
It's pretty nasty. So you ought to pay for, I'm not going to have him pay for the whole thing. You contributed to this ridiculousness. And as it happens, I believe that you contributed to it even more than you initially told me you did, because you went down there before with a girlfriend, which is something that you didn't tell me right away. You said you had never done anything like this before. Right? Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So your medical
Yes.
bills, you didn't have any medical bills from being clocked by her, did you?
No.
No. All right. Your medical bills were $1,800, and you're going to pay for half. So the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Judge, number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Fry versus Alexander. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
You're a model?
Yes.
Aspiring.
Yes.
So you have to smile. Mr. Alexander, you're a photographer.
Yes, I am.
You needed pictures?
Yes.
You hired him to take pictures.
Yes.
Now you're suing him
Yes.
for $1,000. Right? That's what you said.
That went up to $2,000 as of this morning.
Well, the papers that I have are for $1,000.
Good.
So why don't you tell me about this arrangement and why you think he owes you any money?
Well, he didn't agree to what we agreed in the first
Where
place.
did you meet him? Let's start with
At
that.
the modeling management. Model. It's a model management.
Is that a company?
Agency.
An agency.
Modeling agency.
Was he referred to you by someone?
Well, he was there with my manager, and he showed me his pictures, his book, which was really good, that he took of other models. And yes, they did tell me his work was good. So, yes.
And what was the arrangement, the financial arrangement that you had with him?
I had to pay him, he said $250.
I didn't hear you.
It was $250, and that was for the photo shoot. I was getting 2 rows of pictures.
You were getting 2 rolls of pictures, or he was shooting 2 rolls of
He
pictures?
was going to shoot 2 rows of film. He said I would get 2 rows, which would be 72 pictures that I would get. Okay.
That you would get to keep?
That I would get, yes. That's what you do when you take pictures. You get your proof sheet, you get your negatives, and your slides.
And what else was he supposed to give you for this $250?
Well, after I received the pictures from him, he does other things, or he does half of the job. You know, like the background change or the eye change or different things he do extra to the pictures.
So
that
he
would be
touches them
extra
up.
amount, right? Extra
I
amount of
know
money.
about that.
Okay, extra amount of money. So I paid for 4, which was $100. He said, and I have those 4.
4 photographs that you paid for out of your contact sheets.
This was
And that was $25 a piece, or another $100?
It was $100 for 4.
Okay.
I received those. Then we went back to the pictures. He brought some of the pictures. He said I would need 7 or 8 more pictures. So we picked 7 more pictures.
7 additional ones?
Additional ones.
At what cost?
$175. And
Okay.
then, because at the photo shoot, he only took cash. For these 4 pictures, he only took cash. He said only cash. Okay, so with these additional ones only had a checkbook, and I had no more money. So I post-dated the check. He didn't want to take it, but before I left, he said he would take the check. So I post-dated the $175 check for those 7 additional pictures that have
How long did you post-date the check for?
It was, about a week. Because it was, the week Thursday, and it was next Thursday, so it was a week.
Okay.
Which he had cashed it before the post-dated check. You understand? I didn't know they can do that, but
I
they
didn't know
did.
either.
But he did, because
Okay.
I called the bank.
Okay.
Because I did not receive those 7 pictures, and I had been calling him, and he wouldn't return my phone calls to get me those pictures.
So that's what you're suing him for?
Yeah, for those pictures, and then the slides that I want also. The rest of my pictures, the slides.
You want the contact sheets and
Yes.
the negatives?
Yes.
Now, sir, let's start with the 7 pictures first. You cashed her check for $175,
Yes, I did.
and that was for 7 pictures.
7 pictures.
Where are her 7 pictures?
They're right here.
Take them out.
I mean, I have no problem with their testimony all the way to the end.
Okay.
Because, she's just about right. I mean, we had an agreement, and what happened was that she said, I went out of my way to make this arrangement for her. Starting from the beginning, I charge $150 a roll. 2 rolls, 150 times 2 is $300. She bargained it down, and she knows that. She said, I'd like to shoot with you. I've seen your work. It's great. I said, okay, you know what? I'll make it $250, but that's it. She comes to the shoot. We'll do 2 rolls. In the middle of the session, of course, when I'm shooting, I ask the client, I finished the rolls. Do you want to go on? And I added 1 extra roll, and I did not even charge her for it. And so I finished the job. She was very happy. When it came to the ordering, she just kept saying she doesn't have the money. I even went out of my way. What I did was I went ahead and printed the pictures without asking any money for it. I said, you know what, I'm so confident that you're going to like the pictures, so I'll show you, just pay me when you pick it up. She saw it, she liked it, and she ordered some more. But then again, we had money problem. And she said, well, can I post the check? I said, sure you can. I mean, I know you're good for it, you've been paying me, I have no problem with her. She's a very nice lady. I mean, I don't know why we're even here. But, she posted the check, and I told her, I said, number one, your check is posted for a week. I have to wait until I cash it because, I'm not going to
That's reasonable.
Yeah, and number two, I was going to go out of town for a week. I mentioned that to her, and I said, when I come back, I pick up the picture and I'll give it to you.
How long did it take you to do the other 7 pictures after she had given
Usually,
you the check? No, not usually. In this case, how long was it before you completed those pictures?
About a week to 10 days.
Okay. Can I see the photographs?
Sure.
I would really like to see them. Now, the only other thing that I have to ask you, sir, is about this arrangement where she would get all the negatives and the
It's not my practice whatsoever. I have hundreds of receipts here that I always mention on the bottom of my receipts. If they ask for it, I'll write it down. I do not include the picture. I do not include any negative or slides. It is just for the session. I charge $150 just to shoot. I even brought my witness that we just shot yesterday, and this is my just a very last and desperate attempt to get somebody, because I had somebody to show up today and she canceled. She had a shoot. I had a model was supposed to be here.
Well, what is she going to tell me if she was testify?
She was going to actually basically how I charge people and how I usually
All I can tell you, Miss Fry, is these are terrific. Have you seen them?
I never see.
Well, I would love you to take a look at them. I think that they're really exceptional.
No, I've never said that he does do good work, but I have another comment about the amount. Actually, was $2,000. Posted in
Whether it was $2,000, I don't know what you're suing for $2,000 for. Just a second. I don't know what you would be suing for $1,000 or $2,000 for.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He was behind me, okay, grabbing my rear, telling me again how attractive my butt looked, how good it looked, making all these sexual comments.
And later today,
Tying their shoelaces together, sir, is a far cry from using a cigarette lighter and setting somebody on fire.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Photographer Sean Alexander denies that he took liberties with model Tanya Fry during a photo session, and his witness Vanessa Gill says Sean has a spotless reputation.
Now you have all 7 pictures that you paid for.
Okay,
right? Just a second.
Just
a second. And I think that if you had not had a final written agreement with regard to these negatives,
right,
I would not award you the negatives, because I don't believe it's custom in the industry for a photographer to give away the value of his trade, because that means that you can take these negatives and go into any photocopy store and say, I want you to make me pictures. Well, that's how he makes his money, because $250 for a photo shoot is very reasonable, right?
More than reasonable.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So photographers make their money, professional photographers, over the other pictures that you keep ordering from them. So I think it's unreasonable for you to ask for those. He was supposed to shoot 2 rolls, and from those shot rolls, you were going to select other pictures that you were going to order. In this case, you ordered a total of 11 pictures.
Shot extra rolls.
Well, that wasn't said. The said was, you'll get 72 pictures, which would be more than enough what you would need for your book. So
I still don't understand why you're suing
and
him.
I think she's suing.
Well, I still don't understand why you're suing him for $2,000. Then we'll get to this watch that you're holding. Is that her watch?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
that's
that's what it
another-
is, cost $2,000. I don't know. I mean,
And
that's
then-
what she-
Just a second. Was that left during the photo shoot?
Yes.
So give it back to her.
And then
Take your watch.
the other incident was the harassment.
What kind
during
of harassment?
The photo shoot, the sexual harassment.
I can't believe it.
That was
All right, so you're suing for sexual harassment. Let me hear. Is that
Okay.
what the
Yes.
money is for? Let me hear.
changing in the room.
In what room?
It was in the dressing room at this house.
I have a
'cause that's-
makeup.
Jump. I'm going to get to you. Go
It
ahead.
was during this shoot that I was changing from the bathing suit to get in this position. He was behind me, okay, grabbing my rear, telling me all these accusations, how sexy, how attractive, ooh, how this looks so good. My behind, grabbing it. That was one incident. This
Just a second. At
photo
what stage?
shoot right here.
Just a second. At what stage was this?
During the photo shoot, toward the end of the photo
Okay.
shoot.
Go ahead.
Okay. During this photo shoot, he told me I had to raise it up more, the dress, put it up or on the side. So he came over there behind me. He did it again. Hit me on the butt, telling me again how attractive my butt looked, how good it looked, making all these sexual comments. I was ready to leave. I told him, don't say that, don't do that. I said I was ready to go.
Did
Are
that
we
happen?
done?
Did that happen, sir?
It's total bogus. Let me tell you, throughout the photo shoot, I do make the models feel comfortable, and I do say certain things so they are comfortable. I pose them. I do whatever it's necessary to make him look good, and that's what the pictures are the proof. You can tell. But as far as she said she was ready to leave. She was ready to leave to have. We even said maybe want to go get something to eat. That's as far as I left it at the photo shoot, and that was it.
Miss Fry, I have a couple of questions for you. You did this photo shoot. Towards the end of the photo shoot, you tell me now you believe he sexually harassed you. You stayed, correct? You stayed. Is that right?
But I told him don't do it.
And after the photo shoot was concluded, you got the proofs back, right? And you selected 4 photographs. So far, am I right? And you were satisfied with them, you ordered them. Is that right?
I mean, you should
Jump.
see.
Do I look
Sorry.
like I need help?
No.
Ms. Fry, look at me.
Yes.
You ordered 4 pictures,
Yeah.
and you were satisfied with them. You told them they were very good, and so good you wanted more pictures, correct?
Yes.
If you had gotten your 7 pictures when you felt you should have gotten them, which was a couple of weeks ago, would I hear sexual harassment from you? Would
If
I
I would
hear
have
these
gotten it?
allegations of sexual harassment from you?
Yes, because they were true. It happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This
How
is
many
the first
photographers have
time.
you been with?
Several.
Really? You seem to be a
Yes.
little bit naive to me on the situation. I'm
Well,
sorry
who
for
are
that.
you? You need to shut up and mind your own business.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Model Tanya Fry is suing photographer Sean Alexander over slides and alleged harassment.
Is what you're saying to me, you planned on suing him whether he gave you the pictures or not?
About the sexual harassment?
Is what you're telling me
Yeah.
that you intended when you left,
Right.
or a day later or 2 days later, whether or not you got these photographs, you intended to sue him for $2,000 for sexually harassing
Oh,
you?
no. I was not sure of what I was going to do about those sexual
Well, what
harassment
made you sure?
charges. I wanted to let them know what was done to me during
What
a photo shoot.
No, what I'm asking you is, at what point did you become sure that you wanted to sue him for this sexual harassment? After you ordered the first set of pictures, before you ordered the first set of pictures, when you ordered the second set of pictures?
The second. That's when I found out that I could not get my slides or negatives when he told me he was not going to give them to me because he keep them for his record.
So you determined to sue him for this $2,000 for sexual harassment when he declined to give you the negatives. Is that correct?
When I didn't get all of my things.
Very good. Okay, you now have your photographs. Is that correct?
I have some of them.
No, you have all of them. You have all that you ordered, which were the 7 retouched large photographs. And you have the 4 that he originally gave you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you, sir, have been paid $175 for these,
Yes.
and you have been paid the $100 for the other 4,
Yes.
correct? And you have been paid $250 for the photo shoot.
Yes.
Very good. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm sorry, Tanya, but I think, you went a little bit out of line.
No, I did
You
not.
know I did everything
No,
I
I did
could.
not.
You know I did everything
No,
I
I
could,
did not.
okay? I think the judge saw the whole thing. This is just ridiculous, but I'm glad it's over. So.
And now the next case.
All parties on Hanley versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
25-year-old landscaper Lawrence Handley says Richard Lewis set his shirt on fire to wake him up. Lewis says Handley had previously set off a firecracker at his feet.
Why in the world would you burn him with a cigarette lighter?
Well, it was kind of a practical joke. I wasn't intending to burn him. I was just intending to make his arm warm. It's just a gag, like a hot foot or something like that.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
Tell me how it happened.
We were waiting at my friend Scott's house here. It was after a softball game.
A what?
A softball game.
Softball game.
And we were going to go out for a couple cocktails after the game. A few people were supposed to meet us there. I fell asleep while we were waiting.
Where, in the living room?
Yeah, in the living room, in a chair in his house. I woke up, I felt or smelt something burning on my arm, and I kind of hopped up, and my shirt was on fire. And I jumped out of the chair and, started hitting my arm, and my arm was burned up, and I kind of looked around. I was in a daze. I'd just woken up, and I see him, and actually Scott was laughing too. I see him cracking up right next to me. Sort of found out that...
Did you ask him why he did that?
He basically told me, oh, well, I was trying to, get you or something like that, burn your arm or light your hair on fire or something ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I don't know. He was still laughing up a storm about it, and I wasn't too pleased, so.
You still have a mark there?
Yeah, I do.
Can I see it, please? Step up.
Step up. It's smaller than it used to be, but it used to be about as big as a baseball.
How long ago did that happen?
4 or 5 months ago.
Did you see that, sir?
This is the first time I saw it when he showed it to you.
You want to see it? Sure.
Well, you want some damages for your stupidity.
Well, Your Honor, it's, in all fairness, our group of friends, when someone passes out or goes to sleep, we play practical jokes on him before. I know for a fact that he's done it to other people, tie people's shoelaces together. That's why I have a witness to corroborate.
Tying their shoelaces together, sir, is a far cry from using a cigarette lighter and setting somebody on fire.
Well, I wasn't
intending
to light him on fire.
At age
That's the whole
27.
thing.
What were you trying
Do you
to
work?
do then?
Well, yeah, I do.
just
if I
a second.
start acting like I'm 27, I'm going to be 27. If I act like a kid, I'm going to be young for the rest of my life.
What kind of work do you do?
I sell copy work and graphics work to law firms, Overflow.
That's amazing.
That sounds like a pretty responsible position, sir.
It is.
So when do you take on this infancy that you do? Just on weekends?
I like to have fun, in all fairness too. In previous, I think it was last year on 4th of July, he thought it was a cool gag to throw a firecracker at my girlfriend and I, and scared her pretty good. It pissed me off real good.
What?
And, he just laughed it off and everybody laughed, and, it was funny to him,
Anybody get hurt?
No, but,
I don't even know what he's talking about.
I don't know what he's talking about either. He's talking about trying to be Peter Pan for the rest of his life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's suing you for $2,500 because he said he got burned and it hurt and it got infected.
I have a shirt too, by the way.
Let me see it.
It's kind of
That's
dirty.
pretty scary.
I haven't washed it since then, but
It's pretty scary. Did you ever say I'm sorry?
Yeah, I did.
no, he didn't.
When? Just a second. When did you say I'm sorry?
At the time, we were still laughing, so he probably didn't take it.
Who was laughing?
I was. Scott was as well.
I'm laughing too. $2,500 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please. Number 62 on the calendar in the matter of Lake versus McConnell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Lake, I am baffled by your lawsuit, so I am hoping, sir, that you are going to be able to explain to me why you believe that this young lady should give you $2,500.
As a consumer in a very aggressive area, retail grocery, as a consumer there where...
Why don't you tell me the story, sir?
The story is...
Yes, tell me about the lawsuit.
The lawsuit itself
Put your papers down, put your briefcase down, and just relax and tell me the story.
The story, which I have the physical evidence here, is that as a consumer, on Christmas Eve of last year, I entered with a companion at a certain grocery store in the San Diego County area. With that, and with my companion, we went through the cash-only line. My companion went first. She bought a couple of items. She was waiting right there on Christmas Eve for me to go through. Body language that she was ready to go, keys in her hand, tapping her foot. It was a very rush type of thing. I come in with one item in the cash line. I go ahead and confront the cashier with...
That's this young lady
yes,
here.
Yes, ma'am. A person who I now know the first and last name of. At that time, she was wearing a name tag with just her first name and last initial. At that time, right here on the receipt...
You gave her your item. What did you buy, sir?
I bought one bottle of champagne.
Okay, you bought a bottle of champagne, and you gave her money.
Not only did I give her money, but before I gave her money, I said, I have two $20 bills and a 50.
Well, why would you say
Shut up!
Pardon me.
You gave her two $20 bills and a 50. And how much was the champagne?
You can see the attitude of
Shut
the
up.
store.
Hey, just a second. Mr. Lake, answer my questions,
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
How much was the bottle of champagne, sir?
The bottle of champagne with the tax and everything else came out to $4.30. I asked Ms. McConnell, can you break a 50? I told her I have two 20s and a 50. She said yes. I handed her a $50 bill, a quarter, and a nickel, $50.30 for a $4.30 purchase.
So what happened? Come on, speed
What
up the
happened
story.
was, with my companion waiting to go, rushing off for...
I heard the companion. What happened with the money and the champagne? Come on.
The money in the champagne is, I got the champagne, but I didn't get all the money.
Okay, so you say that she shortchanged you in the change. Is that right?
She went ahead and counted out $50 in cash as a count back. I grabbed it and the receipt, stuffed it in my pocket, and left. Very soon after, in the same part of town, I had another cash transaction. I got out my cash. The receipt read clearly, cash tended, $40.30.
Okay.
I went back within half an hour of making my purchase. I confronted her and I said, have you taken in any $50 bills recently? And she said, no. This is within minutes after the transaction.
Okay, so what happened? Come on.
What happened was that talking to various store officials, including one Dean Honda, and
You talked to people at the store.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you get your $10 back?
I got the $10 back after a lot of arguing, and I also got the corporate phone up here in LA County.
Mr. Lake, so you went in, you gave her money, you realized sometime later when you were making a purchase that she had given you, according to you, $10 less in change than you should have gotten. So far as that, make it fast?
Yes.
You went back to the store. At first, they didn't think that they had made a mistake, but ultimately that evening, they gave you the $10, correct?
After a lot of arguing, yes.
So you had a lot of arguing, whatever. That evening, they gave you back the $10.
That's correct.
So why are we here?
On principle. She still has her job. She has not, to the best of my knowledge, been reprimanded, and the store has tolerated outright theft. This is not my opinion. This is physical evidence. They tolerated outright theft. It's not my fault that she wanted some kind of a Christmas bonus on her own as an individual employee. In an industry that from the top constantly cheats consumers through price fixing, that store managers constantly take items off of sale on their computers. We have, in addition to that, employees working on their own, taking money out of my pocket. The principle of the thing is we have theft, we have denial of the theft, and we have zero cooperation from the corporation.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
How many lawsuits have you filed with regard to this particular incident?
One.
And this is the only one?
Yes, ma'am.
Never filed any lawsuits against her because she has a counterclaim against you for a variety of things, including abusive process, which is really the basis of your lawsuit, although you don't couch it in that language. She says that you've sued her at various times, and she'll tell me about that. You've also slandered her, which you did right now. You said she was a thief.
And I stand by that.
May cost you money, Mr. Lake. You understand that?
I stand
because
by
now I'm
it.
going to ask you some questions. Then I'll get to you. Okay, fine. It was Christmas Eve.
Yes, ma'am.
Store was busy?
Relatively so, yes.
And there were a lot of people online waiting, which is why you went to the cash line?
No, it was well staffed. They had a fair amount of employees waiting on people, so it was busy, but it wasn't real crowded, or there was not a long line.
Okay. And you came to her, and what you said to her was, I have two 40s or a $50 bill. Two 20s or a $50 bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why would you say you had two 20s if the whole champagne was only $4?
I wanted to know, in the cash line,
yeah.
You know, I went through the cash line because I had one item in cash.
No, Mr. Lake, you're not following me, sir. If I had a 20 and a 50 and I was buying a $4 item, I might say, can you cash a 50? I have a 50 or a 20. Can you cash a 50? You told me that you said to her, I have two 20s and a 50.
Because I had just pulled it out and I was looking at it and communicating right off the cuff at that moment.
So what you did, what you're saying to me, Mr. Lake, is, since you must agree with me that that was sort of a silly thing to say, I have two 20s to pay for a $4 item or a 50. I mean, that was kind of ridiculous, right? Mr. Lake, is that kind of ridiculous to say I have two 20s to pay for a $4 item or I have a $50 bill?
That's the items that I pulled out. That's the cash I had on hand.
Well, who cares what cash you had? What if you had a $1,000 bill? She doesn't care what cash you had on hand. You had a 20 and a 50. You could have paid with either one.
I had a couple
So
of
can you
20s.
say, did you ever say I made a mistake? Did you ever say that in your life?
Often.
Very good. Well, so you made a mistake. You should have said, I just have a 20 and a 50. Can you cash the 50?
Well, if I had more time, if it wasn't a rush situation, maybe I would have.
Now we're getting there, Mr. Lake.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do I look like I need help?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shannon McConnell, a supermarket cashier, disputes Donald Lake's accusations that he was shortchanged.
So you made a mistake because it was rushed, because you were taking out your money fast, because you had somebody waiting for you, and there were a lot of people behind you waiting to get checked out. So you made a mistake. Why wouldn't you give this young lady, and I haven't heard from her yet, the benefit of the doubt? Why do you ascribe to her malevolence, criminal activity, when it could have been an honest mistake?
That's a very good question.
I'm waiting for your very good answer. Now you're taking time to think about it, Mr. Lake, because you're going to think about a good response to me.
I can tell you right now, two good responses.
Yes.
Response number one, she counted back $50, not 40, in her count back. Number two, a few minutes later, she denies ever having the $50 bill in the first place.
Okay,
Had she said right then and there, oh, you know, if she'd apologized, if she would have helped me confer with the manager. I mean, up until I got the money back that night, she was fighting the manager. If she would have admitted her mistake, that would have been fine.
Mr. Lake, you don't think as a consumer you made a mistake by taking the money when she counted out the money and not looking at it? Not saying, I gave her a $50 bill, let me just check my change. Instead of taking your change and just putting it in your pocket, don't you have any responsibility to do that right at that moment?
Whatever responsibility I had with that, I took care of it as soon as possible.
No, you didn't. If you had taken care of it immediately while you were right there, you would have said, look, the bill right there on top, that 50 is mine. Instead, you walk out of the store after she counted out your money. Then you come back a half hour later, after you've made another purchase someplace else, and say, now, Christmas Eve, I want you to remember that I gave you a $50 bill. Hold it. Go.
From the beginning?
Well, if there's anything that he's left out from the beginning, I'd like to hear you.
Okay, when we went to the cash line, it was extremely busy.
How long have you been working at this store?
Since 1985. Not this particular store, for the company since 85. After I checked him out, I went on a 10-minute break. After I came back from the break, I went to another register. So when he approached me, he didn't ask me in a calm manner. He came up screaming a 20, a 10, and a 5, and a 1, saying that that's a change I gave him. Asked if he'd taken any 50s lately, being that I had just returned from a break, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I was on a new register where his 50 would have been on the old register, so I didn't recognize him from the prior exchange, because since they had been so busy, I had hundreds of customers that day. I didn't recognize him, so I thought the only thing that came to mind was maybe he was wanting a nice, clean $50 bill to give as a gift. So I was saying, I don't think so, but I can check. And as I'm saying, I can check, see if there's one in the drawer, That's when he started going, it was 20, a 10, and a 5, and a 1. And then at that point, the manager came over to see what the commotion was about. The manager did not argue. I did not argue because I didn't know what it was about. The manager took the receipt, said, "You were short of $10. He said yes. He took him over to the courtesy desk. At that time, he just gave him the $10, no questions asked, really. It was a matter of minutes till he got his $10 back. And at that point, Mr. Lake took the $10, waving it in the air, screaming, "Don't go through Shannon's line. She has my money. She'll take your money."
Did you do that, sir?
Not all of those things.
Yes, sir.
I did some of them.
Ma'am, this is Jackie here.
Were you there that evening?
Yes, when her and I came back from our breaks, just coincidentally at about the same time, she opened up on the register right next to me, and the way our registers is set up is her customers' backs are to me, and my back is to them. Okay, so I heard a 20, a 10, real loud, and I turned around, stopped checking, turned around, and looked at Shannon, and then he goes up to the service desk with the manager and gets his $10. He has it in his hand, waving it. "She stole my money." I mean, Christmas Eve is the second busiest day of the year. I've been working there for 22 years. I've never seen anything like this before in my life, the whole time. And he was waving the $10, saying she stole it. The customers eventually, he was there for probably 5 to 7 minutes, yelling and carrying on in front of the store. So all of her fellow employees heard every check stand was open. All the customers were, it was very busy. Him saying it wasn't that busy, relatively. Anyway, so the customers finally started saying, "We don't want you here. Go back to where you came from. We like our store. We like Shannon." And he left. That's how it was. I saw the whole thing. I stopped checking to watch it because I've never seen anything like it.
Shannon, how many times have you been to court with regard to this case?
This is my third time.
Tell me about the first 2 times.
The first time I went,
You were served with a summons?
Yes. I went.
What was he suing for that?
The first time was criminal and commercial theft, deceit, and fraud. That was the first one. I went there, and Mr. Lake failed to appear. I thought that was the end of it. I thought maybe he realized that this was a ridiculous case, and that was it.
Which court did you go to?
San Diego, Claremont.
Does that sound familiar to you, sir, that you filed a case there?
Yes, it did, and she was not serviced.
Just a second.
There was no service done.
I was there when he served the papers, and you did serve her, and you stood behind her and watched her check for about 10 minutes after you served her. You served her personally.
And
I stood there and watched you.
Just a second. And did you serve her?
No, I cannot serve. Service
Exactly.
must be done.
Hey, just listen to me. Just a second. You served her. You gave her the papers.
Yes, I did, and that is not service. Service must be a third party.
So why did you serve me?
Hey, do I look like I need help? Do I look like I need help?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're really ticking me off, sir. You're really ticking me off, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donald Lake, the former educator, wants supermarket checker Shannon McConnell to pay for his trouble when he claims he was shortchanged at her supermarket.
Mr. Lake, so let me understand this, sir. You did, in fact, give her papers with regard to this first suit that she's talking about, but...
Yes, I did.
And what you're saying is that it's a question of semantics, because since you, as a party, cannot serve her, a third party must serve her. It was invalid service, and therefore she was not served.
Also, ma'am...
Am I right?
That's correct.
Good! Now,
And...
say nothing. You're really ticking me off, sir. You're really ticking me off, sir. So you didn't appear in that action because you say she wasn't served. Is that correct?
That's partially correct.
Did you appear in that action?
No, I did not.
Then I'm correct.
You're partially correct.
I'm always correct, sir. The question is, she went to court because she was given papers. She's not a lawyer. She doesn't know that if a third person doesn't serve, it's not considered good service, so she didn't want to be in default. She went to court, and you didn't.
Also, the paperwork was given to Shannon M. I was trying to find out her last name so that she could be serviced correctly.
All right, so now we have one lawsuit that you filed that you didn't follow through with, and she went. When was the next lawsuit?
The next one was 2 months later. We went again, and at that point, we found out that not only did he have my court case, he had 2 other cases in the courtroom next door. Obviously can't be in 2 courtrooms at one time, so he denied having the pro tem hear our case. So perhaps you could go to the other cases. So
Let me understand this so that I make it simple. When you showed up in court on the next court date after you were properly served, I
Yes.
assume. Mr. Lake, you had 3 actions pending on the same day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had to choose which case you would hear that day because you couldn't be in 2 courtrooms at the same time. So you said, I don't want a lay judge to hear my case. In her case, adjourn it to another day. Is that what happened?
No, ma'am.
Then let me hear.
I said I don't want a lay judge, a person who is not culpable to the Performance Review Board on any of my cases. That is a constitutional right.
And this is the 3rd case. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? Are you ready?
I think so.
Are you ready?
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Mr. Lake, in the year and a half that I've been handling cases in this court, I have never imposed the judicial sanction of fines for abuse of process, fines that have been paid to the court for wasting court time. Now, I am dismissing your lawsuit because your lawsuit is frivolous. And not only is it frivolous, but this is the 3rd time that you have abused the people of this state by taking up judicial time and manpower in filing it. There is no question that there was, based upon what I've heard, an honest mistake. You, sir, are a suer, which means you like to sue people. And maybe you get off on that, but I'm telling you right now that the judicial system in this country will not tolerate those people who abuse it, because if you abuse it, people who have a real case can't get court time because the courts are clogged with this kind of frivolous nonsense. Now, say nothing, Mr. Lake. You already said too much. Now, with regard to this lawsuit, her counterclaim, I'm awarding you. You are asking for $1,400. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And I'm also going to exercise my discretion and award you $2,500. All right? And I am imposing sanctions, Mr. Lake, costs upon you that are to be paid to the court in the amount of $500 because you have abused me, and I resent it. Not only have you abused her, but I resent the fact that you have abused the court system. That's all.
Step out. Yeah, this is case number 60 on the calendar in the matter of Peters versus Peters. Judge, the parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Thank you. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Peters, you've been married for 6 years and you're in the process of divorcing. According to your papers, I think that you've both agreed that your marriage is going to be over, despite the fact that I get some sense in these papers that you still care about each other, that your lives are going in different directions. And you come before me today because there is certain property that you have agreed to permit me to resolve with regard to the issue of ownership. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And once those issues of property are resolved, then the divorce process will be a relatively easy one. Right.
Yes.
Yes,
Take a deep breath. Are you nervous?
a little.
Okay. Mrs. Peters, according to your complaint, there are 3 items at issue.
Right,
There is a car.
right, the car.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 1993 Geostorm GSI. And then the issue of my cat and my dog, he gave my cat away. And we had decided that I would...
So there's a dog?
Yes.
Because the cat's gone?
Yes. And then also we have some videos that we...
Some personal videos that he has that you would like back?
Well, I
would
would
like
like
it destroyed?
Yes.
Let's start with the car, because my sense is that the car is, in the area of emotions, the easiest thing to resolve.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, the car is in your name,
Yes, ma'am.
but she pays for it.
That is correct.
How did that come about?
Because when Chris and I had moved to California together, for a while he wasn't working, and I had paid some of his car payments, just 2 of them, so that I was afraid he was going to leave me if he couldn't pay his bills and I go back to Colorado, and I didn't want him to go back, so I paid that. And then I got sick afterwards, and I got really behind on my bills, so my car got repossessed, so I ended up filing for bankruptcy.
I don't believe
And-
you paid my car payments.
Yes, I did. I did
Well,
twice.
it's really not particularly relevant, because what we're here for is for resolution, not to revisit bad moments.
So anyway,
Does that
that's
sound
why.
right to you?
Yes.
So you had bad credit,
Yes.
but you needed a car,
Yes, Your Honor.
and you helped her.
Yes, ma'am. I told her, I says, now if I sign for this car, you have to promise me that you're going to make your payments on time and you're not going to make this a liability to me.
So you said, I'll sign for it, but promise that you'll make the
Make the
payments
payments.
faithfully and on time.
That's correct, Your Honor.
You don't mind if I help you out a little bit?
No, not a
because I
bit.
got other cases to do today.
Thank you.
Okay. How much more time has to go on this car loan?
About a year and a half.
And how long was the car loan? 5 years?
Yes.
And you would agree, Mr. Peters, that she has made, even though some of the payments were late, she's made all the payments.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So there really isn't much of an issue about that. When you separated, you took the car.
Yes.
So
Well,
the issue-
the issue is the collection agents keep coming to me wanting those payments because they're always late.
They are not, I'm sorry. Sorry, Your Honor, but they're not always late.
Well, I got just this notice right here that she's behind 2 payments.
I'm not behind 2
Let
payments.
me ask you this question, Mr. Peters. How would you like to resolve this fairly with regard to the car? Let me see what your suggestion is.
Well, I would like to be able to sign it over in her name, but that's impossible because they won't do it because of her credit. So I think that she should at least reimburse me maybe half of what the car is worth, and that way,
How's that going to help you?
well, my car is about ready to go.
How do you think it would be reasonable to resolve this issue? Because what you're really asking is you're asking him to sign the title of the car over to you, and yet he has the liability.
Yes, ma'am.
I've made all the payments up to now. I'm not going to stop making the payments.
Well, I know that because you're driving the car. But if you do stop making the payments, that means they're going to come after him or repossess the car.
I would never stop making the payments.
Mm-hmm.
I've already paid over $12,000 on that car, Your Honor. I'm not going to stop making the payments. Plus, I paid his car insurance until this year so that he could have car insurance because he didn't want to have
That's
car
not true. You
insurance.
left me with $1,500 worth of bills, and
Chris, that is so not true.
and I paid the last 2 months of your insurance.
Okay. How much is this car worth now, approximately?
$7,000.
Is that about right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have the last statement that you received on the car?
I just have one of the bill that's owed right here.
Can I see it, please? Well, it says this payment, you are delinquent by 1 month.
Actually, that will be true on the 26th. But I'm going to make the payment before the 26th.
Okay. Give me a minute. You still owe a lot of money on this car.
About $6,200, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably paid about $2,000 in overcharges by now. 'cause
No, I have not, Chris.
Well, she's paid for a long time. I mean, you have had the car if she's had the car for 4 years. If she's had the car for 4 years.
But every time she's late a payment, Your
I
Honor,
am
they-
not every time
they-
late a payment,
Shh,
Chris.
don't fight with each other. You don't have
Sorry.
to fight with each other anymore. You're getting a divorce. The fighting is over.
Later on Judge Judy.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am.
And you want it destroyed?
Yes, I do.
You want to keep it?
Yes, ma'am.
That's
And-
it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 34-year-old Chris Peters is divorcing his wife Kelly because she won't give up her exotic dancing career. They have asked Judge Judy to arbitrate their dispute over their pets, their car, and their intimate home video.
Mr. Peters, I'm going to suggest to you that for the purposes of liability and everything else, that you sign this car over to her so that the car is in her name. You, of course, always have the recourse of suing her in a small claims arena. You don't have to go through lawyers or anything else. You know she doesn't have money now.
Yes, ma'am.
My alternatives are to force her to sell the car, satisfy your loan, and then she'd have $800 left. Because if the car is worth $7,000 and there's $6,200 left to pay on the loan, that would put her in a position of not being able to be employed really, because she wouldn't have a way of getting back and forth to work. I assume you drive to work.
Yes, I do.
Now, you've been married for 6 years. Are you employed on a regular basis?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You have a weekly paycheck?
The small one.
Okay. You are not, I assume, Ms. Peters, in your divorce action seeking support from him. Is that correct?
Of course not.
Because you're working.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to look at the long-term picture, Mr. Peters. This car is your insurance. Your insurance that when this whole divorce action is finalized, your wife is not going to ask for support from you because she's not working because she didn't have a car to get to work. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what it really means is for the next year while this car loan is being paid off, you'll have to sweat it a little bit to make sure, that she's going to make the car payments. You also can feel confident that after all the money she's paid for the car, it is unlikely that she's going to allow the car to be repossessed. I'm telling you right now, if you don't make your payments, the first thing they do is come and get the car. So, Mr. Peters, you're going to sign the car over to her. That way, when your divorce is over, everything's going to be finished. Is that a good idea?
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right, good. So, that was the unemotional part of this dispute. Now, let's get to the dog. The dog's name is Breezy.
Yes.
Breezy is, according to your papers, a boxer.
Yep.
Is that a
Yes.
picture of Breezy?
No, this is a picture of my cat that he gave away without my
Oh.
permission.
Okay.
We'll get to the cat.
Yes,
Okay.
we will.
That's a picture of Breezy.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your papers, Ms. Peters, you had a cat and a dog.
Yes.
You had Mac, the cat.
Yes.
Breezy, the dog.
Right.
And why don't you tell me about the arrangement with the cat and the dog when you separated in November?
Okay. We had agreed that I would take the cat, Mac, and I would let him keep Breezy, even though I didn't really want to let him keep Breezy because she's my dog too, and I love her, and I'm the one that took care of her, paid for her food most of the time, took her to the vet, all that stuff.
You agreed that you would keep the cat and he would keep the dog.
Right, and because I can't have the cat where I'm living right now, he had promised that he would keep Mackie for me until I could get my own place. And I thought that instead of taking Mac at the time and having him stay at a friend's house or having my sister keep him, it would be less traumatic for Mac if he stayed in his own house with his own yard until I could come get him. And he looked me in the eye and promised me that he would take good care of Mac.
The same way she looked me in the eye and promised me she'd make all her payments on time.
Oh,
Mr.
God.
Peters.
I did promise and looked her in the eyes about the cat, and then I'd keep it for her. But sometimes when you get...
So what happened with the cat?
The cat kept urinating all over the house and on my clothes and stuff, and I finally...
Coming up on Judge Judy.
It was totally done just for the two of us. I've never made that kind of video with anyone ever before. And I just did it for him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Peters are in the middle of a divorce, but they have come before Judge Judy to settle custody of their pets, a car, and a personal home video.
Why didn't you call your wife and say, listen, I'm giving away the cat. You want the cat, come and get it?
Because I knew that the cat needed a home, a good home, and Kelly wasn't prepared. She just left the cat. If she was so concerned about Breezy and the cat, then she should have done something before she left.
Okay.
She shouldn't have
Mr.
just left
Peters.
it up to me.
Mr. Peters, you didn't answer my question.
Why didn't I
Why
call
didn't
Kelly?
you, at that moment,
Because I was
pick up
pissed
the...
off.
Right. That's honest. There you go. Okay.
And
That's
I was
honest.
using, and I was thinking, I was thinking that it was her fault and stuff. And I was sorry. After I gave the cat away, I tried to get the cat back because I realized how much it really meant to Kelly, But at the time of the anger of the moment,
Okay.
I hated the cat.
That's
so.
Just a second. That's honest, Mr. Peters. Shh. Shh. That's honest.
Okay.
Well, so now, Mrs. Peters, your husband acknowledges that he got rid of the cat because the cat was soiling all over the house.
But, Your Honor, it's because he didn't clean out his box.
Whatever. For whatever reason. He didn't like the cat. Maybe he looked at the cat as an extension of you. Is that a possibility?
Maybe.
He acknowledges that he was wrong. That's a step. That's not a reason for me to say that you're entitled to the dog.
And I'm sorry I gave away the cat.
Good. Did you hear that?
Yes.
I am sorry.
Because, it's like he did the dog has been with him. The dog has always been with him for the last 9 months. The dog has been with him, living in a place where the dog is accustomed to living. There's a certain routine. So if I were to say, well, you gave away the cat, now I'm going to give her the dog, who I'm really punishing is this dog who had dog didn't have anything to do with getting rid of the cat. So that wouldn't be fair, would it? Mrs.
Well,
Peters, would
the
that
dog
be
lives-
fair to the dog?
No, probably
Right.
not.
You're right. It would not be fair to the dog. It's like saying if you have a child and there's a divorce, and if one parent acted badly about something, you punish that parent by saying, well, I'm going to limit your visitation with the child. Because that's punishing the child. It's not only punishing the party, but it's punishing the child for something that the child had no control over. This dog is used to living in a particular place. How old is the dog?
3 years.
So for 3 years, lived in the same place, same homes, got a yard, whatever. Does it?
Yeah, it's got
Got a
big
yard, has a routine.
She's real happy too, Your Honor.
And there's really no reason for me to uproot the dog because he made a mistake.
Well,
Yes, I did.
He made a mistake. He apologized for it. It was not the right thing to do. So the dog stays with him.
Chris, thank you, Your Honor.
Now, the last thing that we're going to address is this video. Ms. Peters, it's your position that this was a rather intimate video that you and your husband took as husband and wife for fun, for whatever. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you want it destroyed.
Yes, I do.
Your position is you want to keep it.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, I have a couple of questions to ask you, sir.
Okay.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am, I would never show it to anyone else.
Okay, so you want to keep this for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
That's sick. Very sick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
But it's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your
it
Honor,
was
it's very
too-
graphic.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Peters, an exotic dancer, and her husband Chris Peters are divorcing. Judge Judy is deciding what happens to their intimate home video.
There is no reason that I can think of for divorced people to keep pictures, videos, photos of each other that the other party might find embarrassing.
Well, there's nothing embarrassing about it. It was just, you know, I mean, it's like, I love Callie. I'm always going to love her. And it's just, I mean, it's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your
it was
Honor, it's very
too...
graphic.
Just a second. I don't want to hear about it. I thought I was being very...
Sorry.
I thought I was being very circumspect about it. I said that there was an intimate thing done with...
I have
between
many
us.
other videos of her, too. I mean, that's not in the same category,
This
but...
is what she wants. This is the one that offends you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. B, I'm going to say this to you one more time, sir, and listen to me very carefully. When you divorce, if you're lucky, you're left with certain pleasant memories that you try not to forget. You know, you had good times with your wife. It just so happens that in your case, after 6 years, your lives have taken a different path. She doesn't want to have to worry about these photographs, these videos, falling into anybody else's hands. God forbid you're out in a car and your car is in a wreck and you are there comatose and your mother goes through your things and she says, I wonder if these are pictures of Chris when he was out skiing, and your mother plays this video. Do you understand what I'm saying, sir? You know, it's one of the reasons why people are always supposed to wear clean underwear all the time and keep their houses neat. You never can tell what's going to happen. There are all kinds of situations that I can conceive of where even if you don't intend something to happen, this can fall into the wrong hands. Someone can burglarize your house. That's a possibility. Isn't that a possibility?
I don't think they'd find the tape.
They're certainly not going to find it, sir, because there isn't going to be a tape.
So there's nothing I can say because...
There is
I mean,
absolutely nothing, sir, that you can say to me that would satisfy me that there is any logical, rational basis for you maintaining anything that might prove embarrassing to her. And if she had something that might prove embarrassing to you, I can guarantee you, sir, it would be in my possession if it was the subject of this litigation, and it would be destroyed.
Do you?
No, of course I don't.
Good. Officer Byrd, you and I are going to take care of this video in the back. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Peters, listen to me. It's resolved. This is going to be destroyed. It's going to be destroyed within the next 5 minutes. Officer Bird and I are going to have fun. We're going to create a little bonfire in my chambers. Now, then you don't have to worry about it anymore, Mrs. Peters. So let us see how we resolve this case. The Geo.
Yes, ma'am.
Is going to be registered in your name. The dog, Breezy, sir, is yours.
Thank you.
The video is mine. This case is over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please. Judges, number 36 on the calendar in the matter of Cooper versus Campbell. All parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Well, this case presents a serious problem that a lot of working people have, especially working moms, who have to find appropriate daycare for their children. According to this complaint, Ms. Campbell, you hired the plaintiff to take care of your children while you were working.
That's correct.
How long did she care for your children?
I believe a little over 2 years. I'm not exactly sure.
And how many children did she care for?
She cared for 2 of my children. I have only 2 children.
How old are they? Your son, who's 5.
My son is 5, and my daughter, who's here today as a witness, she is 7.
And there came a time when you became dissatisfied with her service. According to your answer, terminated the service. But according to your complaint, she did not pay you for the last month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which was $450.
Correct.
So, let me hear what happened.
I provided a service to Mrs. Campbell for the month of April. There had been problems previously for months with her son having uncontrollable bowel movements, and I had suggested several times on occasion for her to have him evaluated, and she disregarded that.
Oh, that's not true,
Just a
Terry,
second.
and you know it.
According to these papers, Ms. Cooper, you were aware of the fact that her son had some serious problems.
Right.
What kind of problems does he have?
My son is learning disabled. We believe he has ADHD, and also he's been diagnosed with stress-related seizure disorder.
And according to your papers, he did have a couple of grand mal seizures.
He's had 2 grand mal seizures. The first occurred the first day of preschool. The second occurred in Carrie Cooper's residence.
And the ADHD is attention deficit
hyperactivity
attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Correct.
And you were aware of that he had these problems. So he soiled himself while in your care.
Right.
Twice.
Twice? No, this has been going on. It was
No,
like...
it was the 3rd time. It was the 3rd time.
It was more than 3 occasions.
No, it wasn't.
Don't interrupt me. So what happened on the day that precipitated
This
this
was at
lawsuit?
3 p.m., April 30th. I proceeded to call Kathy at her place of employment.
At 3 o'clock, the little boy soiled himself.
Right.
And you called her at her job.
Yes.
What
and
time
asked-
does she usually come to pick up the children?
5 o'clock.
Okay.
So I proceeded to ask her if she can make arrangements for somebody to come pick him up.
No, you didn't.
Listen, I'm going to get to you in a second.
I called her, notified her of the problem, asked if somebody could come pick him up. I didn't have another diaper to change him or a change of clothes. She said he would have
Miss
to
Campbell,
stay like that.
you're not helping yourself.
Okay.
Okay?
He would have to stay like that until she got there. At which time, I put him in the hallway because I have tile there. I have carpet everywhere else. I put him in the hallway to wait for his mother.
How did you put him in the hallway?
I just had him sit on the floor in the hallway.
Well, describe this place to me.
Okay, my front door, then the hallway, then you go into my living room. The hallway is all tile. And I had him sit there instead of the carpet so my carpet wouldn't get soiled.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I do. I have 1 child.
Boy or a girl?
Girl.
How old?
5.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Why didn't you take off those soiled clothes from the little boy? And at least for the 2 hours that he was waiting, why didn't you put on a pair of your daughter's overalls, something?
I just did when I called her and asked her to come get him, I did what she told me to do.
No, Miss Cooper, I'm talking about humanity. I'm not talking about what she told you to do. She called her at work and you said somebody has to come and get him. Well, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not easy on a moment's notice to get somebody to come over and pick up the boy. These were children that you had watched for 2 years. You have a child of similar age, who I'm sure has a pair of sweatpants, because girls always have sweatpants, just like boys do. Take off the diaper or the pull-ups that he was wearing. I don't know, burn them, do whatever you want to do with them, and in the meantime, until she gets there, put something of your daughter's on. Why couldn't you do that? Instead of putting them out in the hallway.
Since I started watching the kids, he was potty trained. I never agreed on changing diapers. She knew of the problem. She knew that I wasn't going to do that. That's why every time it happened, I called her at work, and either her husband or herself would come pick him up.
What do you mean you never agreed? Children have accidents.
I understand that.
And you mean if a child has an accident, you don't take care of that?
Yes, I do.
Well, then so what was the problem here? If you wanted to terminate this and say, listen, after today, I'm not taking care of him anymore, I could understand that. My problem, Ms. Cooper, is it's very traumatic for a child. I know I've had children, and it's very traumatic for a child to be left that way, humiliated in a hallway alone. A 5-year-old understands, has the cognitive ability to understand what you're doing. It seems to me there's a certain lack of humanity in not taking care of the problem and then saying, at the end of the day, Miss Campbell, I can't, I won't, I don't want to take care of your children anymore because this is a problem that I don't want to have to deal with.
I had told her that 2 weeks prior to that.
But still, you continue to take care of the children, right?
Right.
But you can say, I'm not going to do it anymore without taking it out on the child. The child is the one who's traumatized. She may feel very badly about her son, but it's the child himself who's left with that feeling, that terrible moment of being in a hallway because he soiled himself, especially when he has the kinds of problems that this little boy has. Who's wrong? All right, Miss Campbell, I see you're real upset.
I want to tell you, first of all, she handed me his clothes in a clean bag. The difference between the other 2 incidents and this, he was wearing a pull-up. All she had to do was take off the pull-up and clean him up, put his clean clothes back on him. She's lying. Those clothes were in a bag. My daughter's here. She knows the story. When I walked up, he was standing by the front door. The neighborhood children had gathered, and they were laughing at my son. I will never in my life forget the look on his face.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My son is going into therapy June 19th for what she did to him, okay? It wasn't a safe environment at all.
And later today,
You owe me my money, or you gotta pay me.
Well, I'm not going to pay you because you still owe me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Bennett Campbell says her babysitter, Carrie Cooper, neglected her 5-year-old son, and so she refuses to pay the fee.
He was standing in the hallway like she said, but you could see him. I could see him in the corner with his head down. When he came out to me, his pull-up had been on him for 2 hours. It was sagging. He had only a t-shirt on. She had just bagged up his clean clothes because she simply did not want to deal with the situation.
Those weren't clean clothes.
They were clean clothes.
Sir.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I had to say something.
Well, then you step up here. You want to come up here and say something? I'll hear you.
They were not. They were soiled clothes from days
Stop.
before.
Miss Campbell, Miss Campbell, why don't you say anything?
She doesn't bring diapers. She had bring clothes before, but they had been soiled in prior. That's why they were in a plastic bag.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Tom.
Tom what?
DeLeo.
Mr. DeLeo. You were home when this happened?
Yes.
You have children, sir?
Yeah, her daughter's my daughter.
You know how protective people are of their children?
Yes, I do.
Miss Campbell is protective of her child. You are particularly protective of a child who has a disability.
We were protective of her kids, too.
No, Mr. DeLeo. You're not protective of a child, sir, if you don't take care of that child
Well, it's
in the
not
same way that you would take care of your own child, and you would not leave your daughter in that situation. And if you would not leave your daughter in that situation, you don't leave a child entrusted to your care in that situation.
I want to say, when she made that phone call to me, if I had known that my son was going to go through this, you better believe I would have picked him up. I never intended for this to happen to him.
Had you always paid her on time?
Yes, yes, ma'am, I did.
And you paid her at the end of the month?
Yes.
For the preceding month?
Correct.
Now, you know that she took care of, by the way, did you report this incident?
Yes, I have. I filed a police report, which I have a copy. Tom DeLeo is also involved. I want to explain to you this. When my children got into the car, both of them at the same time told me, Mommy, Tom hit Josh in the head. Tom hit Josh in the head. Then Josh told me, no, you know what? Jenna's going to tell you. Then Josh told me his feet hurt, and that's when I asked him, were you in the corner all this time? And Josh said yes. I have filed reports with community care licensing. I have filed a police report. I have filed a police report. Child Abuse Registry is currently investigating that. Anaheim Police is awaiting their report.
Okay, well, that's a good
I have
idea.
that here for
What's
you.
your name?
Jenna. Jenna.
Jenna? Is your name Jenna? I have a little granddaughter whose name is Jenna. She's 2.5. Jenna, would you like to come up here and talk to me for a minute?
Watch your step. See you, Jenna.
Hi.
Hi.
Jenna, do you remember that day when your brother had a problem? Yes? Well, would you tell me what happened? You look at me and tell me.
Well, I came home. I came to my babysitter's house. She picked me up from the bus stop, and then we had to do my homework, me and my friend, and then we ate our snack, and then we played the monkey game, and then it was time for Joshua to get up, and then
He had been sleeping?
Yeah, and he did an accident. And,
While he in his pants while he was sleeping? Okay, so what happened then?
and then Carrie put him in the corner for 2 hours, and then he told me that.
Who's
that
Carrie?
She.
She. That's Carrie? She put him in the corner?
And then he told me that Tom hit him in the head because he hit Ashley on accident.
Oh, so that Tom hitting him on the head had to do with an argument that their little girl was having with your brother. So he said he hit him on the head because he hit Ashley. Joshua hit Ashley. I see. It didn't have anything to do with him soiling his pants. That he got hit in the head, right? Is that right? Good. Anything else you want to tell me? Has it always been okay at this babysitter's for you? Up until this happened? She's a pretty nice babysitter? Yeah. She takes care of you okay?
Yeah.
You never had any complaints before, did you? No? You have a new babysitter now? You like the new babysitter? Want to go back to your seat? Okay. Okay, so at least we found out about this hitting on the head. It didn't really have anything to do
No,
with
but
this
how appropriate is it to hit a child with stress-related
Kathy,
seizure
I
disorder
never
in the
hit
head?
Josh in the head.
listen.
No way.
Listen.
That's what my children told me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have nightmares over what my Joshua went through for 2.5 hours. You're pathetic and you make me sick.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Bennett Campbell says her babysitter, Carrie Cooper, neglected her 5-year-old son, and so she refuses to pay the fee.
This was an unfortunate incident.
Extremely.
I absolutely agree with you. But it appears from what your daughter has said, and even what you have said to me previously, that this was a babysitter that you had used for 2 years and who had taken good care of your kids. I don't think you would have left your children with her if she didn't. I find, Miss Cooper, that your behavior on that day was really inexcusable. The issue is, does that mean that you don't have to pay her for the whole month? And you do, because that was your arrangement. You have to pay her for the month that she watched your children. I certainly think that you did the appropriate thing by issuing the reports that you did, because I think that her actions were callous in what she did with your boy. She exercised very poor judgment. I'm telling you that you exercised very poor judgment. But this is a court of law. You had a contract. Your contract provided that you were supposed to be paid $450 for watching these children. You would watch them for an entire month prior to this incident. So the judgment in this case is simple. It's for the plaintiff in the amount of $450. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope you're proud of what you did with my son.
Step out the back door to your right, please.
I think you're pathetic, and I think you should not be watching children, and I think you better take some parenting classes, and you need to find some compassion.
parenting classes.
Oh, honey, I'm in parenting classes to deal with the problems my son has
Your
because
son
of you.
had problems before
That's correct,
me.
and you knew about it. You knew.
Parties on Richardson versus Amos. Step forward, please.
29-year-old dancer Denise Richardson says she loaned her brother-in-law, Lavasta Amos, $95 to rent a truck, and he never paid her back.
All right, Miss Richardson, you say that Mr. Amos owes you $95. You want to tell me how that came about, please?
I don't know about it in March. My niece called her father asking me to help.
Your niece?
My niece.
That's
My
his
sister.
daughter?
My sister's daughter, yes.
Okay. This is the father.
Yes.
Your niece called you and said...
Asked me if I could rent a writer truck for them to move. So it was
For
just...
whom?
For her father and her.
Okay.
And it was just for me to put it on my credit card, for them to just have a deposit, you know, to hold the truck, and then they were supposed to make the payment.
They were supposed to pay in cash.
They were supposed to pay in cash, yes, ma'am.
So you said?
No problem. I went down. I had to sign, show my ID. He wasn't present, but his wife, Tammy, was. I said, are you sure you're going to pay? She said, yes, we're going to pay. We're going to bring the truck back this evening, and we're going to pay. So I had to go to work, and I went ahead and left the matters in their hand.
So they put the $95 on your credit card, and they never paid for it in cash?
Yes,
How you
Yes?
How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Let's get down to business. Do you owe this lady $95?
Yes, I do.
So why are you here?
Well, basically, it's like that happened when I did have the money. She wasn't in town. She was out of state. So I ended up spending the money. So when she came back, I told her.
Just a minute. You rented the truck.
Yes.
And you had the money.
Yes.
In cash.
Yes. No, not at the time that she rented the truck.
That's what you told me.
So then you got the money.
You're right.
How much later did you get the money?
It was about a week later.
So why didn't you send it to her?
I didn't have an address for her. Plus, when I had the money, she was gone out of state.
Actually, the money was supposed to be paid that day. The credit card was only to hold the truck because you can't get one without a credit card. He was supposed to pay that day, either that night or the next morning they drop off the truck.
No, because I told her I didn't have the money, because if I did, I would have gave her the money that day.
If that was the case, I would have never let him rent a truck on my credit card, knowing he may have done that to me.
If she knew I
assume you have the money
money
today. Listen, I assume you have the money today.
No, I do not.
Well, you better get it. Do you work?
Yes, I do. But she owed me.
She owes you for what?
Well, back on March the 22nd, or at the end of March, my daughter babysitted her kids. Her kids got out of hand one time, and they was just basically running in and out the dining area where my cabinet was, and they ended up breaking my champagne glasses for a wedding.
That was never, I never did know anything about it.
I told her about it.
March?
And yes, when Toya kept the kids that day.
Just a second.
And I told her that the glasses cost $150. It was our wedding champagne. It was engraved with her name on it and everything. She said she was going to pay me back.
This is all new to me. I've never even heard this.
Mr. Amos, that really has no. You can't set off, sir. What you're looking to do is set off the champagne glasses for the $95 that you owe her. Let me tell you this. If
it has nothing to do with that. I mean, you know, it's like she said she was going to pay me. That's just like the same thing I'm supposed to pay her. I'm going to pay her and she ain't paying me.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Well, I want to tell you something. I'm not deciding that lawsuit with the broken champagne glasses, but if I was deciding that lawsuit, this would be my decision. Pay careful attention. Your daughter, who is how old?
She's 16 now.
She assumed the responsibility of taking care of these two children. It was her responsibility to see to it that the two children were supervised at all times, and if there was anything in the house that could be broken or whatever, it was her responsibility to see to it that those things were out of harm's way. Do you understand?
Yeah, but I had told her kids several times to stay out the dining area. They were supposed to be in the play area.
Then what you have to do is tell your daughter, who would assume the responsibility for those children, to take the children outside. Do you understand?
But it was at night.
Hey, Mr. Amos, you got an answer for every question. You owe her the money. Period. End of discussion. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $95. That's it.
Parties are excused. 6 on the calendar in the matter of Palmer versus Palmer. All parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
This is a pretty sad situation.
Very sad.
Mr. Palmer, this is your daughter, Vanessa. Vanessa, how old are you?
17.
And you're suing your daughter, Mr. Palmer, because you say that she left your home. When she left, she took a car that had been purchased, and she owes you money for the car. You either want the car back or you want her to start paying you the money for the car. And she left your home under very unfortunate conditions. So I have a few questions, and then we're going to try to resolve this, okay?
Okay.
All right, Vanessa?
Okay.
Now, when's your birthday?
August 28th.
You say you bought the car, you say for her, but she was supposed to make payments on the car.
Yes.
No, he bought the car for my birthday and because I got a job. And he told me to tell my friends that I had to pay him back so they wouldn't get jealous, but he told me it was for my birthday.
Could you both come up here for a minute? Mr. Palmer, I don't know what could motivate a parent other than anger to bring their 17-year-old to court. I'm sure it's not the money, right? Because her birthday, this car was bought almost a year ago, correct?
Correct.
And for a year, you didn't pay any money, right? You seem to acknowledge that.
Yes.
So why now?
Because over the past year, I had been asking when this was the only obligation that I asked of her throughout the entire period was that I will get a car for you. She wanted a brand new one, but I was not going to co-sign
Which I would have been paying for.
to purchase a brand new car. Furthermore, going to school and working part-time, I really feel that it's not in your budget. So what I said I would do is purchase the car for her, pay cash. This eliminates finance charges. Also, you would only have to have the liability insurance, and I feel that it would best fit.
How much did you pay for the car?
It was around $900. Then,
So it wasn't an expensive car, and then it was in an accident, according to your papers. It took some
No,
fixing
it
up.
was stolen.
Or it was stolen and
Right.
it was trashed or something, and you
Yeah.
had to pay some money to fix it.
correct.
Step back, Mr. Palmer. Step back, Vanessa. First of all, Mr. Palmer, we're going to get to the emotional part of this case in a minute. How much is the insurance on the car, Vanessa?
$53 a month.
And you pay that?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Palmer, how much did you tell your daughter she was supposed to pay you each month towards the purchase price of the car?
We had to establish, first of all, approximately what her income was going to be.
Did you have this discussion with your father?
No. No. He never told me I had to pay him back for the car. Whenever he was upset with me or mad at me, he told me I owe him. But other than that, he never told me.
Honor, that's not true.
What I asked you, Mr. Palmer, was a very simple question. How much did you tell your daughter she had to pay you back each month for the car, like an installment loan? Give me the figure that you say you told her.
I didn't give her a figure. I was somewhere around $100 a month.
That's not a business arrangement, sir. Somewhere around $100 a month. So for a year, she didn't give you anything.
Yes.
That's while she
correct.
was living in your home.
Yes. Of which I had asked her over that year, when are we going to start fulfilling the obligation that we had agreed upon?
That was pretty much when you got angry with her? She says it was when you got angry with her, when she
No.
did something wrong.
No,
You mean-
Your Honor, that was not why I got angry at her.
Why did you go and live with your father in 1991, Vanessa?
Because it was a better living situation than with my mother. She was separated from my stepfather, so
Did your father take good care of you?
yeah.
Then you got to be 17, and according to these papers, you got a boyfriend.
Right.
And your father didn't approve of either the boyfriend or...
He approved of him until he found out he was my boyfriend, because he's friends with a neighbor of my dad's, and he says, "Oh, he's such a nice guy," and this and that. And then whenever he found out he was my boyfriend, he didn't approve. Actually, because he has a kid, he didn't approve.
He has a what?
A daughter.
He has a daughter?
Mm-hmm.
How old is his daughter?
6 months.
Vanessa.
Yes, Your Honor.
You don't have to bring coals to pilly on. Did you ever hear that? Vanessa. I was a family court judge for a very long time. Do you know how many times I've seen 16 and 17-year-old girls? Not all of them as pretty as you are. Tell me that they love a guy and he's got 2 or 3 kids floating around, right? Do you know how it sits on your father's shoulders when he sees his beautiful 17-year-old daughter dating a guy who has a 6-month-old baby, how irresponsible that is. How old is your boyfriend?
20.
20. And I assume he's a president of a bank or something, that's how he earns a living?
No, he was working until he broke his ankle.
He was working at what?
In a warehouse.
And now what is he doing?
He broke his ankle and now he's on disability.
So now we have a 20-year-old on disability with a 6-month-old baby. And you wonder, I mean, I wish, Vanessa, that you could take yourself out of your 17-year-old body and make yourself 40. For a minute. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he knows, if he's smart, how easy it is to throw away your life when you're 17 and to make a mistake when you're 17 and you can't recoup. The woman or the girl who had your boyfriend's 6-month-old baby is never going to be able to recoup her life. Don't you understand? If he liked him, he liked him. Then he found out he was your boyfriend and he's got a 6-month-old baby. You think that there's something wrong with your father for being angry at that and for saying to you, listen, babe, I'm going to do whatever I can to see to it that you don't ruin your life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer says his 17-year-old daughter Vanessa had no right to take the car when she left home to live with her mother.
Your mother, stand up here. Stand up here. What's your name?
Donna.
What did you tell the daughter about this boyfriend?
She's dating him. She's not marrying him.
I don't care whether she's dating him or marrying him. Didn't you explain to her what the problems are?
When I found out that he had a child, I was a little upset about that. Other than that, I think he's fine.
You think a 20-year-old with a 6-month-old
It's
baby
not
who's
my-
on disability is fine for
I
your
think
17-year-old
I
gorgeous
think
daughter?
he, as a person, is fine.
Listen, there are a lot of very nice people. I have daughters. I have 2 of them. If my daughter, who was 17 years old, came home to me and said, I got a boyfriend who's 20 years old, who's on disability, who's got a 6-month-old kid, that he's not supporting because he's on disability.
Excuse me.
He still is supporting his daughter.
What can I do about
You
that?
can try to
I can
discourage her.
alienate
Just a
her.
second, you can try to discourage her.
It was a done deed.
It was a done deed.
That's right. She's in love with him.
She's in love with him.
I mean, they're not planning to marry, to run off together. They both live at separate residences. They're dating.
You know, maybe if your
She
daughter had a
works, she goes
unified,
to
maybe if
school.
your daughter had a unified front with her parents, and both of her parents saying to her, "This is a tremendous mistake," then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. Because I gather from these papers and from what you're saying that the reason your daughter left home was because you said, "I don't want him in my house anymore."
She was thrown out.
Just a second.
He threw her out.
What happened, sir?
No, Your Honor, that is not true.
Oh,
That is
God.
not true. That is not true at all. When I stated that it is not in her best interest to see this young man anymore because of what we have been discussing, was when it all broke loose. She said, well, fine, then, and she said this in the presence of my 2 younger ones because I walked outside to kind of
No,
cool
he
off
didn't.
a little bit. That fine, then I will go live with my mother.
No.
That is
Your
not
Honor.
what happened.
Well, you weren't
Well,
there. Just
you-
a second. You weren't there. So you tell me your version of what happened.
We were arguing and he was yelling at me. And he yelled at me to help my sister with her homework. So I did. And he was still yelling and I yelled back, "Why are you yelling at me when I'm helping you?" And he said, "Don't yell at me, shut up or get out." And I said, "Fine, then I'll go." And he said, "Take all your, well, he didn't say stuff, but."
Was it about turning?
Mr. Palmer. That was a heated argument. You understand how that falls on a 17-year-old. You understand how that falls on her, even if, you know, even if said in anger. If it was said in anger. But you were looking for a reason to leave the house.
No, I wasn't. He told me all the time, "I can't wait till you're 18. Since you have to stay here, I'm going to make it hell for you.
Oh, please.
I'm going to
Is that-
make you want to leave."
Is that what he said to you?
Yes, Your
Why
Honor.
would he say that to you?
Ask him.
Who are you?
My name is Victoria, and he had told her right in front of me, well, maybe I would love her if she lived at a friend's house. And I thought that was very wrong.
That's sure. It's very wrong. Bottom line is, everything was okay until you got the boyfriend.
Everything wasn't okay, but that just added to it.
I was under the impression that he was all for the boyfriend.
He let him come over to the house. He went with us to my aunt's house on Easter.
That's where I got my input about
Well, then what happened? Then there must have been something that happened. If he was in favor of the boyfriend or was not opposed to the boyfriend, he must have found something out. What did he find out? Find out about the baby?
About the baby. He knew he had the baby.
Right.
No, he knew that.
He knew there we go.
Hey,
Thank you.
Listen, Vanessa.
Thank you.
You misunderstood what she said.
He knew that my boyfriend had a baby.
He approved
wasn't
of
against
the boyfriend. He approved of him. I'm serious.
He told me that I could still hang around him if he got a court order with child support and did everything through court. He pays child support for his daughter. He does everything right.
Just a second. He can't pay child support. Hold on a second. This is getting more interesting by the moment. Mr. Palmer, just a second. Just a second. What you just said to me is, even after he found out about the baby, he said, you could still hang around with him, but I want him to act responsibly towards the baby. I want him to get an order of support.
He already does.
No. Is that what your father said to you?
Yes.
Is that what your father said to you?
He said that if he had a court order for child support and a court-ordered visitation, then it would be okay.
That sounds pretty... That sounds pretty reasonable to me, sir. I wouldn't be so reasonable, I tell you that right now.
Well,
the reason he didn't go through court, he pays child support and he has visitation. They have a written agreement between the two of them. The reason he doesn't take her to court is because his family is totally against that. So...
You are getting yourself into such a barrel of horse manure. I can't tell you. And to see a mother stand there in an approving manner about this whole thing is, to me, bizarre. Mr. Palmer, listen to me, sir. All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter.
He changed the locks.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Oh, yeah, you guys are real intelligent, aren't you?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer wants his teenage daughter Vanessa to meet her responsibilities by paying for the car she took when she moved out of his home.
All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter. She is, at this point in her life, making a tragic mistake. Tragic.
Yes.
I will not be able to get through to her. You have not been able to get through to her.
Nope.
She's got a mother who's got to head someplace in the clouds somewhere.
Very true.
Right?
Correct.
Right?
Very
But
true.
I'm telling you, Vanessa, you find yourself with a 6-month-old baby, madam. Your life is over. And you're a very pretty girl, and you sound like an intelligent girl. You sound like you probably do well in school. You have a job in addition to going to school, which suggests to me that you're motivated. You have a certain responsibility because you pay for your own car insurance. And I'm telling you, you hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser. And any 20-year-old guy who's dumb enough to have a 6-month-old baby is a loser.
He's going to become a fireman. He's not a
He's
loser.
right now listen.
What?
Listen, gonna become a fireman isn't making him a fireman now. Right now, he's a 20-year-old on disability with a 6-month-old
He
baby.
broke his ankle.
Listen to me.
This is
Say
him.
nothing. Are you the boyfriend?
Yes.
You the boyfriend? I would suggest that you keep your mouth shut.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David and Vanessa Palmer, a father and daughter, are fighting over the car she took when she moved in with her mother.
Mr. Palmer, I have to dismiss your lawsuit, and I'm going to tell you why, sir. I was really hoping that when I looked at these papers, I could get beyond your lawsuit and see what this was all about and maybe resolve it. I can't. I mean, I can't. She's going to have to come to terms with that herself, but your daughter's 17. She's a minor. And you cannot get a judgment against a minor because right now you are her legal guardian, correct?
True.
So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter as her legal guardian, you would be responsible for it. Do you understand that?
You're suing yourself.
Be suing yourself.
Do you understand that? She's a minor.
No, I do not.
Well,
I
not sue a minor,
listen to me.
you
I don't
sue
know.
the legal guardian.
Hey!
Whatever.
She does not reach the age of majority in this or any other jurisdiction until she turns the minimal age of 18. which means you cannot get a judgment against her. You can get a judgment, however, if she's committed a tort or something else against her guardian. But you, sir, are her lawful guardian. So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter, you would have to pay it. That sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? Since you're paying anyway. Now, you can, sir, wait until your daughter turns 18. And then in equity, if you still want to, you can reinstitute this suit. But right now, you cannot sue your daughter. I don't think it was without some value, Mr. Palmer. I don't think that getting this piece out was without some value. I think that your daughter, Vanessa, will at least think a little bit. Vanessa, I have never, in the thousands of times that I've seen young women like you, in cases like yours, it's not unique, I have never seen one of them where the woman, young woman, doesn't find herself behind the 8 ball. And you may be angry with your dad, but if this is all over the boy, and I gather it is, he's right, you're wrong. You'll figure that out in 5 years' time. Unfortunately, in 5 years' time, it may be too late, which is really what he's saying. And if your mother doesn't see that, she's got clouded vision. This case is dismissed, that's all.
So, excuse, you may step out. Judges number 80 on the calendar in the matter of Douglas versus White. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am. Have a seat.
Mr. Douglas, I've read your complaint. I've read your response. Ms. White, don't understand a lot of it. What I gather, sir, is that you rented a room from the defendant.
That's correct.
And things, according to your complaint, became untenable there. You moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're suing the defendant for $5,000.
Yes.
You rented him a room. You say he moved out owing you a month's rent because he didn't give you 30 days' notice. So you're suing him for $5,000.
Plus sexual harassment.
Well, my limit is $5,000, so I assume that everything that you're suing for is part of your $5,000.
That's correct.
It's better be good. Let's go.
It's pretty good. I moved in. When I went to apply for the room, I asked for no drinking, no smoke, or little smoking, and no violence of any kind.
Is this a private house?
Yes, it is.
All right.
This was just at the time of the application.
Excuse me?
This was at the time of the application for the room. There were 3 people there, the defendant, Rose, her witness, and another gentleman.
Okay. So, what happened?
The first month I moved in, it was pretty calm, but thereafter it just got worse.
How did it get worse?
The defendant fought with her roommate constantly in the middle of the night. They'd get drunk and fight. They'd throw chairs at each other, beat each other up. This was happening every night.
So why didn't you just tell him you were leaving?
I couldn't afford to at the time.
Just a second. What do you mean you couldn't afford to?
I'm on a fixed income, and it was costing me $450 a month to live there. I didn't have enough money to move, period.
Well, how much did it cost you to move in?
$450. That was, she gave me a break. I just had to pay the first month's rent and half of the second month.
So you didn't have much of an investment in there, so why couldn't you just move out?
No place else would do that. I had to have first and last month.
Well, that's not the defendant's fault, sir.
I didn't blame the defendant for that.
Well, so
I just could not afford to move.
So what are you suing the defendant for $5,000 for?
Because she didn't take it. The money that I paid her was supposed to go as part of the rent or part of the mortgage payment. It never got paid.
What does that have to do with you?
A lot, because the mortgage company's going to throw me out.
What does that have to do with you? You're giving her $450. I'm trying to figure out where this $5,000 number came from.
Well, on top of the not paying the rent, my electricity was shut off.
When?
The last part of January.
And how many months had you been living there?
3 months at that time.
How come the electricity got shut off?
Because he took over control of my house. He told all the tenants, because I got notice of trustee's sale, because I'd been trying to save my house after divorce. He got all the tenants together and said, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay any utilities. And they didn't at that point. They all stopped
Why did he tell the people that they didn't have to pay rent?
Because he
and
said
utilities?
because my house was being supposedly foreclosed, and it didn't.
Oh. So you found, let me understand this. You found out, sir, that the house was in foreclosure.
He took...
Just a minute. You found out that the house was in foreclosure.
Yes.
And you had a conversation with the other tenants that if the house was in foreclosure, they didn't have to pay.
No.
That's incorrect. I'm sorry.
Who are you?
I'm the witness. I lived in the household at the same time.
Okay, I'll get to you then.
Thank you.
That's important. Did you, step up here, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay electric?
Yes, ma'am.
You have your proof of that?
I did not bring that. I didn't know I was going to be on trial myself.
When this person moved out, they owed me 2.5 months out of the 4 months they were there. And I'm suing...
This
yes,
lady?
that person right there owes me over 2.5 months. They didn't pay diddly squat to me. And they moved in with this guy.
You have proof?
I do have proof, but it's in Sacramento.
That you paid the last 2 months' rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did not happen.
Sit down. Are you currently living with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Not with. We're sharing an apartment. I want that.
I still don't know where we get $5,000 from, Mr. Douglas.
The electricity was shut off. She shut it off. It wasn't shut off because
So-
of the thing.
so-
I had to have it turned back on.
So,
She stole several of my own personal things
Like
from
what?
me. I have a list. Would you like to see it?
sure. A miniature pulpit? What is
Yes.
that?
A friend of mine had a pulpit made for me, a small one,
Why would your friend do that?
because I'm a minister, or was a minister at the time he had it made.
How long ago was that?
2 years.
What kind of a minister?
A Christian minister.
I mean, did you have a congregation?
No, I was a counselor,
Counselor for whom?
marriage counselor.
I'm going to, listen to me. I'm going to read you a few things, and I want you to tell me whether you have any of these things. Ready?
I'm ready.
A miniature pulpit.
That was left in the room and it's still there.
So it's there, ready
Yes.
for him to get.
Yes, I took pictures.
Vinyl and wire lamp stand.
That was left in the room. I have pictures.
Cookie jar.
That is in my case right here. It was left in the room.
2-slice toaster.
That was left in the kitchen where it was left.
Just say, I
Sure.
tell you what,
In
just
kitchen.
say yes.
Yeah.
Just say yes that you have it, okay? Sorted couch pillows.
No.
Lavender blanket.
No.
A year's worth of new magazines.
Left in room.
Footstool.
My property. Extortion.
Your property.
My property.
Okay. Computer, monitor, and stand base. Do you have that?
No, I don't.
Set of 4 relaxation tapes.
No,
Do you
I
have
don't
that?
have this.
All right. You now know what she has. Shep. You now know what she has, and we'll make arrangements for you to go pick them up. Now, what else are you suing her for?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What do you mean you didn't know who this person was?
I didn't know this person was a man.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Minister Joseph Douglas says he rented a room from Christina White but felt trapped in a nightmare. Christina says Joseph was the problem.
Now, what else are you suing her for? So far, I haven't heard anything anywhere near $5,000 worth. All that merchandise that she has, you can have back. I still have. Stop looking at your papers. Tell me where $5,000 is, Mr. Douglas.
Your Honor, I went through pure hell living in that house for 4 months.
Then you should have moved, sir.
I couldn't afford to.
That's not her fault.
Well, it is her fault.
No, sir. She didn't charge you. She didn't
guaranteed
charge
me
you.
something when I moved in there, Your Honor.
Okay.
And she didn't fulfill that agreement.
No.
And I have a witness to that, too, or a statement from the other witness.
I don't read statements from witnesses. I hear witnesses. I don't take statements from witnesses. So far, if you moved into an apartment, $450 a month rent. She didn't charge you security.
300 a month.
$300 a month. She didn't charge you security. She didn't charge you first and last. You didn't bring in a whole bunch of stuff, according to you. And if you couldn't afford to move out, she wasn't saying to you, she didn't keep you prisoner there. You could have moved out. Because you can't sue her for $5,000 because you were unhappy there, sir. You're unhappy, you move. This is America. All right, you are countersuing him for what?
I am countersuing for the damage to my room and house.
To your what?
For the damage to my room and house. he left the room filthy, and I have pictures of how the room was left and the stuff he left in the room here, if you care to see some of that. May I?
Come on, get somewhere near $5,000, madam.
Okay. We're getting to that right now.
Well, then let's get to it, because this
Okay.
other stuff is nonsense.
Okay.
He
This
wasn't
is-
happy living there. You weren't happy having him there. He left, period. End of discussion.
I wish that had been the end of it, ma'am. The mental and sexual harassment.
Well, you can tell me about that.
First of all, when he left, that was a bit of a charade. He promised me a note that he would pay. He sent someone else to pick up the stuff the next day. And then the day after that, on the 9th, he sent me then threatening, harassing note. And he
Show it
ends
to him and see
with a
if
note
he-
with, "Have a nice day. It may well be one of your last."
Did you send that note, sir?
Yes, I did.
Can I see it, please? Dear Charles and Christine,
All of his correspondence has been addressed that way. The small claims court was addressed that way.
why do you address the mail like this, sir?
Because that's the way I filed it in court, and I wanted the court to know that I didn't know who this person was until a month before I moved out. That's why I'm angry.
What do you mean you didn't know who this person was?
I didn't know this person was a man.
Because, just a second.
Order.
What? But why, sir, would you address mail?
Because I didn't know whose name to send it in, Your Honor.
Well, how was this person introduced to you? How did you...
Christine.
You identified yourself as Christine.
Christine, yes. Totally.
All the time?
All the time, 100%.
Not all the time, Your Honor.
100%.
When she was at home, it was whatever.
I have a witness here that would dispute that. That's ridiculous.
Listen, have you officially changed your gender?
Everything, my legal gender, as shown in my driver's license,
Is female?
changed. Yes, it is.
Okay, and when was
And
that
that's
done?
About 4 years ago.
Okay. Am I correct that the sexual harassment that you are referring to is the fact that he has addressed documents that he's sent out to people using both your female name and the name
My
Charles?
previous married name, yes.
Okay.
That is just the beginning of it.
Go ahead.
Him and this other person co-conspired to get me fired at my job. They filed 2 Better Business Bureau complaints alleging, Diane was the first one, alleging went into my store and found this person who was, quote, a man dressed as a woman.
Let me see.
And it has my business response to it, and this is also, he followed with the next day one that alleged the same thing. And everything was fraudulent. They said they could talk to my supervisor. It did not happen.
I don't know what this is about. You want to tell me?
This is about them, this person here, claiming they came in my store and saw me as some stranger, and I've known that person for 2
Just a minute.
years.
I'm talking about this
Well,
gentleman. Forget about her.
Okay.
She's not party to this
Okay.
action.
Him, he followed up with the same identical thing.
No, Your Honor, that's not true.
It's right there in black and
I
white.
wrote the letter, but I wrote it because I objected to this person working in the women's department.
Just a second. You wrote to the Better Business Bureau advising them that the defendant was working in the women's department of a store
Yes.
and she was actually a man, and you thought that that was wrong.
Yes, I did.
Why did you do that?
Because I think it's wrong.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you just curse in here?
I might have.
Get out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
But I think you've got a lot of nerve with this. This is pretty vindictive. This is pretty vindictive and pretty nasty.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Minister Joseph Douglas and Christina White are at war over rent, invasion of privacy, and allegations of sexual harassment.
That was typical of the situation I lived in. I couldn't do anything.
Then you should have left.
I tried.
Oh, please, give me a break.
I didn't have the money.
That's too bad. That's too bad. That's not her fault. That's not my fault. How old are you, sir?
50.
If you're 50 years old and you didn't have $400 to move out and find another place to
would've
live,
taken
that's a
me
real
$1,200,
problem.
Your Honor.
What?
It would have taken $1,200 to
Didn't
move.
cost you $1,200 to move
I
into
got
her
lucky.
apartment.
Or I thought I had,
Well, you thought you got lucky, and you didn't.
obviously.
And you didn't. But I think you got a lot of nerve with this. This is pretty vindictive. This is pretty vindictive. Just a second. Pretty vindictive and pretty nasty. This having.
I still object to her working there. I don't care if it's vindictive or nasty to anybody else. She shouldn't be working in a woman's department.
What? Where did you go to divinity school, sir? Where did you
Florida.
graduate from divinity school?
Florida.
What?
Florida.
Give me the name of the school. Just a second. Give me the name of the school.
United Faith Ministry.
United
Bible,
Faith
Yes, Bible College.
And how long did you go to this United
3
Faith
years.
Ministry? When?
1986 through 1989.
Did you graduate from there?
Yes, ma'am.
After 3 years?
Yes.
Divinity school?
Yes.
Where did you go to school before that? You don't go to divinity school for 3 years, sir.
Well, I did.
You don't
Your
get a
Honor.
doctor of divinity in 3 years. Unless you
don't
get
have-
it, unless
I
you
don't
get your
have-
doctor of divinity
I
and
don't
close
have
the
it.
cover before you
I
strike.
do not have a DD, Your Honor.
Huh?
That's a Doctor of Divinity.
Yeah. So what are
Mine
you?
is in religion. It's a PhD, and it's an honorary PhD, but it's still valid.
Right. I just want to make sure we understand each
Okay.
other, sir. Because I understand you. This is a vindictive thing to do. What else?
Well, basically my job was pretty much ruined his career. Ruined that
Did you
place.
get fired from your job?
No, not
Good.
yet, but it's going
Oh,
back.
that's something.
Okay, I
Let
have
me see
also
the
my
letter.
counseling. I've had to start counseling because of what they've done. Sexual harassment and what happened at my work. Because I used to go to work and feel happy, and now I go there and I just feel like I've been raped at my work by this man and this other person.
Yeah.
Thank you. He caused breach of contract by their tenants by saying that they didn't have to pay rent or utilities, and that's the only reason is I ran out
Listen
of
to
money.
me. I'm not entertaining that. The fact that he told other tenants that they did not have to pay rent or utilities, and they listened to him
Yes,
because
they did.
because they were stupid. Go after them in a separate action, each one
Yes.
of them for money that they owe you.
I
What
am.
else?
He interfered with my mortgage contract when they tried to serve me the trustee sale notice, and I was home. He stopped him from doing that, and he got the notice, and he read it, and had him put it on the door. He actually said I wasn't home.
They
Yes.
posted the notice. That's all it was,
After
Your
you told him
Honor.
I wasn't home. You lied.
They had already posted it.
You lied. I was home.
She's ready to rule.
Listen to me. He has, as abhorrent as I believe it is, he has a right to voice his objection as a citizen under the First Amendment to the Better Business Bureau with regard to someone who he knows is a man who is now a woman working in a woman's shop.
Well, he didn't know that from me, Your Honor.
Well, he may not have known it from you, but that happens to be true. So he has a First Amendment right to write to the Better Business Bureau. His motives, I question, just as I question his reverendship. All right. But that is not actionable. It's not sexual harassment. He's saying that he finds that not a reasonable situation to have you working in a woman's department in a store. Now, I don't know what business is it of his unless he goes in to buy ladies' things and goes into the dressing room, but he's allowed to do that because that's what the First Amendment to the Constitution says he's allowed to do. Listen, you get nothing from this court, sir. Absolutely, positively nothing except within 4 days, escorted. You can go and retrieve the items that you will please have put to one side someplace so we can pick up all the items that he has left in your apartment.
Right, my house.
Now, most of the damages that you are requesting from this court have to do with this harassment and making your life miserable,
Yes. Inside and out.
inside and out. He left without giving you 30 days' notice. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I had a 3-day or quit notice, Your Honor, so I left.
You didn't leave within 3 days. You
Just-
hung on.
Just a minute.
Okay.
He left. I would assume, Miss White, that you are very happy to be rid of him,
Very.
that you didn't want him around for an additional 30 days. Correct?
I actually offered he could stay there if he promised to catch up on the rent.
Just
And
a
he did.
second. From everything that you've told me,
Yeah.
you were very happy that he moved out when he didn't stay an additional 30 days.
Sure. I mean, at that
Good.
point, yes. Mm-hmm.
Give him back everything that you owe him. This case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, number 20 on the calendar in the matter of Creech versus Daniels. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
All right, Miss Creech, you were in a relationship with this gentleman for about 7 years, according to your complaint.
Yes.
And towards the end of that relationship, you say you lent him money to buy a car.
Right.
$4,000 to buy the car and another $1,100 for what?
For stereo and an alarm.
And how much after you made this loan to him did you separate?
About a month and a half.
You couldn't tell that there was handwriting on the wall?
No.
No?
No, I guess he could, but I couldn't.
You, sir, say that this was a gift.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
So?
Not.
Tell me how it came about.
Okay. We had a car that we bought together, a Trans Am that we were going to sell.
A Trans Am?
The deal was he came home on March 28th and he took off with the car.
Which car?
The Trans Am, with his friend, supposedly to show it to somebody to sell. But actually, it went down to another woman's house. And so then he, the next morning, he took off with the Camaro.
Just a minute. How did we get to the Camaro? I want to know how you bought the Camaro.
I bought it with, my dad died and he left me some money. And it was in a separate account with my name on it. And I wrote the check to the company.
How did you
in
find
cash.
this Camaro?
Oh, we were shopping for parts at a wreckage company and they had the car for sale. And it was
This
a
was
good
about
deal.
a month before you separated.
Right.
So,
It was on
what was the
Valentine's
conversation
Day.
like when you saw this car?
Well, we were looking at the car and he said, God, this is a good deal for $4,000 and it's 10 years younger or younger than what I already have. And so I said, well, let's think about it, because at the time he had quit his job and he wasn't working. And I said, if you get a job, then we'll get the car. Well, Monday came, he told me he had a job, which was a big lie. And then he
What
went
did he
back
say
to
to you?
his,
He got a job doing what?
driving a truck like he always does.
And you were living together at this time?
Yeah.
And you lived together the entire 7-year period?
On and off.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, on Thursday, the previous Thursday, he told me I have a job and I start Monday. So I believed him like an idiot. And Monday came and went, and so did the job. And then he went in and he has a drinking problem. He went in and he told me they decided not to accept me because, you know, the insurance wouldn't accept him.
What do you mean?
Well,
you mean
when
the
you have-
insurance for the trucking job?
Right, because he had a DUI like 10 years ago on his record.
Okay.
So, but the time was a little fishy, like when he left to when he went to this job. So amazing, he comes back to San Jose, and he got his old job back, where he always gets it back. You know what I mean? Because when he works well. It's when he doesn't work, he drinks. So we got the job back, and started driving the truck. But I never got any money back.
Just a second. I still didn't hear how you bought the car.
Oh, then we went back to where this, car was for sale, and he had a job, and I wrote the check, and the deal was he was supposed to be paying me back some money, but the money never came.
Now, when you got the car, you paid for the full amount. Is that
Yes.
right? So far, is that correct, sir?
Paying for the full amount, it is, Your Honor.
Okay. And you put the car in whose name?
Jointly.
Joint?
Joint.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so far, that's at least one smart thing that you did.
Yeah, once in my life, yeah.
Okay. And then a month later, you separated.
Right.
But he also wanted a stereo in the car and an alarm.
Well, a week or two after that, we went down to this place where we had bought stereos and alarms before and just had it put in. I put it on the Visa. It was $1,100. So that's how.
So this was 2 weeks before you separated.
We bought the car on the 14th of February, and we bought the stereo on the 22nd of February.
And when did you separate?
The 29th of March.
Not a long time.
No.
So now you've got a
new
nice
car.
new Camaro with a stereo and an alarm.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what caused you to separate?
Her story is pretty well to the point. There's a few things that are just kind of a little iffy on that. For one thing, the other car is a 76 Pontiac Firebird, not a Trans Am. There's a difference. Okay. And another thing, the part about getting a job never came up.
Let's start about the part about the car.
The car.
Such a lie.
The car.
Okay.
You
car.
are such a liar.
Car. Miss
Why
Creech,
would I buy a
Miss
car
Creech.
if he had no job
Miss Creech.
to pay me back? Such a liar.
Are we done?
No, we're
Yeah,
not done.
Miss Creech.
We're done.
If you want to talk to him, you go outside. If you want to talk to me, you can stay here.
Okay.
Thank
Is that
you.
fair?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
7 years of this. Anyway, what I'm saying is there was no contract. We went to get parts for my car.
No contract with whom?
Her and I.
Let me have. You think that there should have been a contract
No,
between
no, no,
the
no,
two
no,
of you?
no. There shouldn't have been a contract because there was no question in my mind that
what?
That we were buying a car and it was going to be my car. She can't. Can you drive a stick?
Just a second.
Can you? She can't drive a stick, Your Honor.
What does that got to
Listen
do
to
with
me.
anything?
Listen to me. She said that you were buying this car because you were going to sell the old car that you had.
That's perfectly correct.
I know, because that's what you put in your answer.
Right, but the thing is, there was no time that I was going to sell the car. I said, I'm going to sell the car, which doesn't mean I had a buyer for it. The car is for sale right now.
The car's in Riverside.
Just a second. Shh.
The car has a for sale sign on it right now, Your Honor, in Riverside, at this young lady's house.
Yeah.
Okay? The
Why
car-
do you think? But and you have, so you have both cars.
Yeah.
Just let me understand this. Let me just put on my thinking cap and understand this whole thing. You have the Pontiac, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the Camaro.
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the stereo.
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the alarm.
Correct, Your Honor.
She has the Visa bill.
Correct,
Right, just
Your
a
Honor.
second. She has the Visa bill. She has the Visa bill. She has the check stub for $4,000 and fond memories of you. That's what she has. You think that that's fair?
Your Honor.
Your Honor, I know who I am. Do you think that that's fair?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did you break up, sir?
I told her either he goes or I go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Thomas Daniel says his former live-in, Susan Creech, is mad because he left her after 8 years. Susan says he left with the Camaro she paid for.
So how are we going to make it fair, sir?
Well, if I can convince you that
Order.
You asked me a question earlier about
If you could convince me what?
if I can convince you that there was no she bought this Friday we went and took a look at the car. We didn't talk about the car all weekend long. Monday she goes, do you want to go and let's go and get your car? And I never mentioned it to her. Not one word did I say to her. Friday we talked about it. We discussed it. I said I'll put the Firebird up for sale.
Just a minute. Let's go back.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You said, you discussed it, and you said, I'll put the Firebird up for sale. Whatever we get to the Firebird, we can put towards this, and then we will pay it off.
No.
No.
No. I said I would put the Firebird up for sale.
For what?
Huh? Well, I can't drive both cars, Your Honor.
And what are we going to do with the money that you got from the Firebird?
Okay.
Oh,
We
not
had a
okay.
joint. We had
Not
a joint.
okay.
We
Answer
had,
my
Your Honor,
question.
we had a joint account.
Just a second.
My checks went with her account. Her checks went in her account. Okay. She had all
My
the
check,
Visa
just a
cards.
second. My checks, you just said, went with her account,
You're damn right.
and her check,
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
my checks went in her account, and her checks went in
Her account.
her account.
We had a joint account. Okay.
So that all the checks went together.
Right. Who had
You were going to sell the Firebird
and put it back
in the joint account.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's okay. So that you have money to pay for the Visa, the $1,100 paying
Very
off the
good.
Visa, and all that stuff. Right? Just a minute. Am I right so far?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, then you didn't sell the Firebird, and I am correct. She has the memories and the bills, and you have the cars and the stereo.
Correct.
So then what's the problem?
Ms. Creech?
Yes.
I don't see, quite frankly, sir, that there's any problem. You bought this car, and there was an understanding, a 7-year relationship. There was an understanding that you were going to use this car together. Evidently, you did the driving. She was the passenger in the car most of the time when you traveled together. You were going to have one car. You were going to sell the Firebird. You were going to have the Camaro, right?
She has her own car, Your Honor.
That's true, but I also have my own vehicles, which I drive.
She can't drive my car, Your Honor. She knew going into this deal, going into this proposition, that it was a stick, Your Honor. She can't drive a stick.
He always buys cars that have sticks. Every
They're-
single car
they're my
he's
vehicles.
ever owned.
But just a second, if you buy, they're your vehicles, if you buy them, she bought this one, and you
With
say it was,
our money, Your Honor.
What do you mean with our- just a minute,
It was
she
a
says-
joint account. It was a joint account, Your Honor. It was our money.
Just a second.
My money went in there also. It was not just her money.
Hold on. $4,000. She said this $4,000 came from
In 7 years' time, I
I'm
have
not
worked more than $4,000, Your Honor.
No, we're not
I have
just a
put
minute.
money in this bank.
No.
Just a second. Talking about the $4,000 that she took out of an account. Did she take that out of your joint account?
No.
No.
Well, then that wasn't your joint money.
Funny, we
We're
had
not
no
going
money in
back
it,
to the,
huh?
Listen, sir, we're not going back to the year of the flood. You were together 7 years. You ate a lot of meals during those 7 years.
Drank a lot
you
of
paid a
beer.
lot of rent. You whatever. She says you drank a lot of booze.
Lots.
Whatever it was, you lived over that 7 years. You can't say, well, I must have given her $4,000 over that 7 years. That doesn't sound right to you. This $4,000, she says, came out of a probate account when someone in her family died and left her some money.
Right.
But is it your position that she bought you these things as a gift as a gift?
As a gift.
Why? Because she loved you?
Yeah.
And because she thought you were going to be together?
I thought, yeah.
Okay. So that dream lasted another 4 weeks after she bought you this stuff.
But there's a lot more to it. You're under.
I know. I'm not interested in what happened 6 years ago and 5 years ago. What I want to know, sir, is what was the precipitous for your breaking up 4 weeks after you bought this car?
Okay, Your Honor.
That's me.
She has a son, a 19-year-old son who does not work, has been graduated out of school, does nothing more than run around with gangs, does nothing more than get stopped for, doesn't get stopped for tagging, gets thrown in jail for tagging. I've told her that she goes to work at 11 o'clock at night. I stay home and sleep.
Why did you break up, sir?
I told her either he goes or I go. Okay? He was staying. I said, hasta la vista. And I left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As long as I never have to see or hear from you again, I'm happy.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ex-lovers Susan Creech and Tom Daniels are fighting over the Camaro she bought just before they broke up.
2 weeks after I'm gone, she kicks him out of the house and then says to me, well, you were right.
Not 2 weeks.
Just a second. Just a second.
She says,
Hold
you're
it.
right. You're right.
Right.
I said, but what did it take me leaving the house for? Because we've been fighting about it for months, literally months. And it got to the point where I just said, hey, I'm beating my head against the wall. I come home here and try and get a good night's sleep, and all I'm doing is listening to boom boxes at 2:30 in the morning. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go down there, and I got tired of threatening the kid. Okay? Doesn't prove that I'm a big man because I can threaten a 19-year-old kid. All right?
So
I got tired of it.
So why are you angry with her?
Angry with her?
Shh. Yeah, why are you angry with her? You gave her a choice.
Because I gave her all the warnings in the world.
let
Your
her-
Honor, I gave her all the warnings in the world. I said, look, either he goes or I go. I gave her 30 days. 30 days came and passed. I gave her 60.
You have
What was I
children?
going to do?
You have children?
Do I have children? Of
why
my
do you
own,
keep
yes.
Why do you keep repeating
Yes,
my
Your Honor,
questions?
I do.
How old are your children, sir?
21, 27, and 16, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
I don't see them.
You don't see them.
No,
Why is that?
I don't see my children.
Well,
That's not fair.
then let me suggest this to you, sir. It's very difficult for a parent, in this case a mother, to be faced with an ultimatum, even from a maid of 7 years, that says it's either your son or me. When you say you got 30 days to choose your son or me, even though he's a pain in the neck, listen, that's not an easy choice for a mother to make. She clearly cared for you. She cared enough for you, and she doesn't look like a lady who's got money coming out of every pore. So she clearly cared enough for you to go out and say, you want this car, you really like it, here's $4,000, I'm going to buy this car because I know it will make you happy if we have this car. And you also like a nice stereo in the car, I'm going to take money out for that too, so that you can have a nice stereo in the car. So she's clearly a lady who cared for you. But when you tell her you got 30 days to choose between him or me, even if this son of hers is a real royal pain in the rump, which I believe he probably is.
He was.
Right? Because
So was he.
afterwards you told him out. Right. It's not easy to accept that kind of ultimatum from anybody when it comes to a child.
Well, the problem was, though, he had plenty of chances. He's done some really choice things in his life. I felt like I was giving everybody chances. But he's such a selfish person, he has to have everything to himself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's not a very difficult decision to make. You left, you had been having problems, according to your statement, Mr. Daniels, for months with regard to this boy.
So why did he take both cars? I'd like to know why.
I wasn't planning on leaving one to have it trashed.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. How about the
Mr.
how about,
Daniels,
how about the
Mr.
Firebird?
Daniels.
How about the Fiaro? How about the Fiaro? Who keyed the Fiaro?
Me.
Thank you. I'm going to leave a Pontiac sitting there by itself, Your Honor.
Why would I?
For this woman to key up again?
Mr. Daniels,
Doesn't make any
Mr.
sense.
Daniels,
It still wasn't her car.
Why didn't you leave her the Camaro?
Pardon me?
Because he wanted
What?
the
Just a
best
second. What word didn't you understand?
I wanted the Camaro.
Because
Yeah, but just a...
Good,
You wanted
thank
the Camaro, Mr. Daniels, but she paid for it. I want, but she paid for it. If you were leaving after 4 weeks, it seems to me a little disingenuous of you, sir, to leave and take a car that she had just purchased for you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Need help in a divorce dispute? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think she bought, and I keep saying bought this car for you to use because she had faith that your relationship was going to continue?
Yeah, I'm sure she had.
Okay. It's no different a situation to me, sir, from somebody giving somebody an engagement ring. And it's always been my position that when a man buys a woman an engagement ring, that's given under a sort of a contract that they have, that they will be together and that they will marry. And in the event that that marriage does not take place, it has always been my position that the ring has to go back to the man. Now, a lot of women say, listen, he gave that to me, it was a gift. But the gift was given with the intention, that ring was given with the intention of the marriage taking place. When that doesn't happen, the contract is over. This car was bought in contemplation of the two of you being together. Maybe if you had been together for 20 years, I would say, well, you know, you were together for 20 years after you bought this car, so that was sort of fulfilled. But there is something that doesn't sit right with me here that you left in a month's time, taking the car, the stereo, as well as the alarm. The alarm should have gone off in your head. The judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Is there a way that you can make him bring the other car up from Riverside? Because he wants me to go down and get it.
Madam, let me explain something to you. You've just told me this man drinks. He is selfish.
True.
He's self-centered. He gave you an ultimatum with regard to your child, right?
True.
He perhaps has not been totally faithful to your relationship. Big time. Big time?
Big time.
You just won a judgment for $5,000. What do you want a 20-year-old Pontiac for? Right?
True.
Perfect. $5,000 for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
On the next Judge.
Your Honor, this is number 90 on the calendar in the matter of Farkas versus Bull. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Farkas, if you tell me the story in as interesting a manner as you wrote it in your papers, it's going to be a fun morning. So, relax and tell me your story.
Well, I was traveling westbound on Sunset Boulevard heading towards Highland. I get to the corner of Highland with a plan to make a right turn. I'm in the far right lane. The light changes. I move forward a foot or a yard. All of a sudden, bam! Mr. Bull over here smashes me from the middle lane of Sunset because he's decided to make a right turn onto Highland. So we pull into a strip center right nearby, and you know, I'm reaching for my documents. I'm just trying to compose myself, and he saunters over to my window, and you know, in his way, oh, I'm so sorry I did this. This is terrible. I had my mind on other things, and I'm getting a divorce. I'm saying, please, I don't want to know. Just let's go with the license and registration. So I look at his license.
A divorce? I just got married, so I gotta be getting a divorce.
I'm going to get to you in a second.
I read his license. Dwayne Xavier Bull, license expires in '95. Do you have insurance? No, this I don't have. I look at his license plates, New Mexico license plates. So what are we going to do? He says, I just want to pay for it. Why don't you just take it over to a... So I asked him, what beseeched you? What possessed you to make this turn?
Your Honor,
he says, I saw my boyfriend on Highland Avenue with another man, and I got so upset. I said, I'm not interested. What are you going to do? He says, I'm going to pay. He says, I'm going to pay for it. I tell him I'm going to go right now to get an estimate, and I'm going to bring it to you, and you'll pay for it, and we'll forget the whole thing. Now, the man, can I show this to the judge, please?
Yes.
The day, exactly at the incident, I wouldn't leave the scene without him signing this. It clearly says, Dwayne Xavier Bull agrees to pay me. He caused the accident. Fine, so he does it. So what happens next? I call him and call him and call him. No answer. He gives me his pager. His salon is on Sunset. Following morning, I walk into his place of business. I walk in, And this young lady takes over. Divorce, marriage, the French woman, I don't know, but she starts, excuse me, I will handle this. Dwayne has no money. Well, that's good. That's good. What are we going to do? But we want to fix your car, so we want you to take your car to Vahe.
To who?
Vahe.
Vahe.
So Vahe, the Armenian auto body repair. It's right. There's more documents to establish it. I pick up the telephone. I say, I'm not leaving here till I speak to Vahe, so it's perfectly clear that Vahe fixes my car, he pays for it, and I go home. I call up Vahe, and I say, Vahe, do we understand each other? Dwayne Xavier Bull, I'm going to bring my car to Jenemsveld in the valley somewhere, and you don't know where, I don't know where it is. You have to take a cow to get there. So, Vahe, do we understand each other? You're going to fix the car, and Dwayne Xavier Bull is going to pay for it. He says, no problem. We know Dwayne. You bring your car. You'll be very happy. Following morning, my wife and kid in tow with the Camry behind us. We're trucking out to no man's land. Oh, excuse me. Here's the document that says that he agrees to pay Varaz Auto Repair when I bring the car to him.
Okay.
Dwayne, can you give me a chance?
Mr. Bull, I'm going to let you tell the defendant's side of the story as soon as he's finished, okay? Go ahead.
So I get to Varaz, Vahe's a very nice guy, he says, leave the car, no problem. On my way home, I'm telling my wife, there's no shot in the world that this problem is over. Sure enough, like clockwork, Vahe's boss calls me. Bob the Armenian. Bob, we have a problem. Of course we have a problem. Dwayne Bull didn't come to pay for the car, right. He says, we agreed that he would just pay for the parts and we'll give him time on the labor. The man doesn't come. So I start calling him, Vahe is calling him, Bob is calling him, the man doesn't return calls. Finally, he threatens me on the telephone. I called West Hollywood Police. He says to me, if you call me and harass me anymore, I'll have people beat you up. I call West Hollywood Police, but they're busy with seatbelts. They can't handle this.
How long are you in California, sir?
Not long.
How long were you in California at the time of this accident?
Unfortunately, only about 60 or 90 days, and although it's not relevant to the case, 45 days before this incident, I move into a house on April 4th, and the following day I wake up in the morning and the house is on fire. I'm carrying my baby out in the fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. And oh yes, we heard it enough. Well, here's an official document from the fire department establishing that happened. I know it's not relevant. I'm sorry.
It has nothing to do with the case.
Okay, so did you get your car?
I actually paid for it yesterday for a full month. I mean, this man wreaked havoc on my life.
How much was the...
$1,800.
It was 19 at first.
Excuse me.
You want to pay 19?
He changes his figures.
Excuse me. The day I came to him in salon, I showed him the first estimate that I told him I would get was for 18 and change. Varaz, his own people, estimated at 1,800. And that's what I paid for it.
$1,800.
$1,800. So this is his own people. This is Vahe's estimate.
Okay, Mr. Bull, you've been anxious to tell me your side of the story. Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Hey, Mr. Farkas' car. He agreed to pay for the repair. He never came by to pay for it.
Paper.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dwayne Bull, a Hollywood hair and makeup specialist, says his collision with actor Peter Farkas on Sunset Boulevard was Farkas's fault, and he shouldn't have to pay for the damage.
Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, the way I see it is, yes, he is correct. I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard.
Stop playing with the papers. Talk to me.
Okay, I was just looking for a little document I wanted to show you as an exhibit. Okay, here it is. I was traveling west. Could you pass this to her, please? I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard. Now, he was in the far right-hand turning lane, and it was 5 o'clock traffic. I truly believe that he was in that lane because on Sunset Boulevard, people get in that lane to speed to go fast. Your Honor, the way I was hit on the way my car personally was hit, if you look at the estimate, it was hit on my right side front door. Okay, so what I did was I put a signal to turn right. I think he was in this lane to go forward because he was not in our sight, nor did he have a signal.
So you weren't You weren't in the far right lane, correct?
No, I wasn't. I signaled to go.
You were not in the far right lane. You were in the center lane.
Yes. No, the lane next to the far right lane.
But he was in the far right lane.
Yes, right. Exactly.
So you went to make a right turn.
No, I signaled to
You
make
went
a right
to
turn.
make a right turn.
Yes.
And you were not in the far right lane.
No.
Right. You got out of the car. you went over to this gentleman. You signed a piece of paper indicating that you were prepared to pay for the damage, right?
Yes, I had not even had the car a day, okay? And yes, I was nervous because I did not have insurance. And yes, I was nervous.
You didn't have
because
insurance?
I didn't have insurance, and I didn't have a driver's license.
That's right.
Okay, so yes, I really was nervous.
So you didn't want, listen to me.
So I didn't want trouble with the police department.
That's
but
right.
not only that, he got personal with me. He asked me, was I gay, okay? And I responded, no, he was coming on to me at the time. And I played with the party too. Yes, I'm married, but of course I'm gonna play into it because I didn't want the police. And I felt if he thought I was gay, then maybe he liked me. It's obvious, he's Nelly.
Okay, Mr. Bull. Now he
this
comes.
is proof.
I want you to stop talking. Listen to me. I'm going to ask questions. You're going to answer them. He came to your salon. Now he got to Viha, the Armenian, through you. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm being totally honest. I was nervous. That's the only reason I signed this paper. I did not want to go to jail. Okay, my wife told me, listen, this guy is at fault. He's in our business and he's screaming. Irate, loud. He's from New York. He's obnoxious. It's obvious he's obnoxious. Look at him. Okay? He calls on my phone repeatedly. He tells me about his house caught on fire, how his kids are hungry. He needs his van to transport his kids. All this irrelevant stuff. While I have very important clients that are there. In fact, my wife is here. It's proof that I had a client that sit there in the chair when I disputed with him for 20 minutes in my business, screaming because he has no patience and he acts immature. He screamed, and I lost the client. She requested her $150 deposit back for, the services that were being rendered, her hair extension. I am a popular hairstylist, and only thing I ever stated to this man is that when you want to speak to me, you do not call me at home and you make an appointment like everybody else.
Is that what is? Just a minute. Have we now completed your side of the story?
No, I have one more thing to say.
I'm ready to hear you, sir.
Your Honor, again, yes, I admit that my driver's license had expired. But again, from the way my car was hit, he said I hit him. It's obvious he hit me. From the way
that's really not urgently important, sir. I'm going to tell you why. Mr. Farkas had the right at that time, because there was an accident, to pick up the phone and call the police to have them come to the accident.
But why didn't he?
Why? Because
I had no, because you had problems with your license too. I'm almost certain you did. You had some kind of problem.
You looked at my license and said, you're a typical Gemini. That's his comment.
Mr. Bull, you, sir, had no insurance and did not want the police to come because you were also driving with a suspended license. He gave up the right to call the police, to have the police come and make a determination based upon, don't interrupt me, based upon what they saw, whose fault this accident was. You said to him at the time,
he never mentioned police.
I will take care of the damage, and you signed a piece of paper indicating you would take care of the damage.
I signed that paper again because I was nervous.
Well, I don't care whether you were
Anybody
nervous or not.
signs paper, I mean
I'm
under
not,
pressure.
listen.
I mean,
I want
was
you to
nervous.
Get, I want you to get not nervous,
My
Mr.
personal
Bull.
lifestyle had nothing to do with this case whatsoever. And for him to mention those things about my personal, I think that it was very irrelevant. And it's obvious that, again, from the way the position my car was hit, that it was his fault. But of course, he's not going to admit it.
Your Honor, I was doing.
And you did real good.
I was doing the man a favor.
Doing me a favor.
He's telling me
Mr.
about his
Farkas.
wife
Doing me a
problem.
favor.
He's telling me about the two-timing boyfriend. I mean, the man's got, sexual confidence. He's a menace on the road.
Mr. Farkas. Mr. Farkas.
I'm sorry. What the hell's so funny?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
he has no idea what my feelings are if I like to ride bicycles. He doesn't know that about me.
I dated him for 6 months. We've been friends for 9 months since then.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Farkas, you paid the $1,800 to have your car fixed? Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,800. The defendant's counterclaim for harassment and all sorts of other things is dismissed.
Thank you, Judge.
Please excuse you may step out.
But you were very smart about getting those papers because that's the only reason why you won this case. But other than that, she would have looked at it for my way. And I just think it's because you're blonde and blue-eyed.
I am absolutely convinced that Mr. Bull had his name shortened.
And now the next case.
All parties on Ryder versus Pullman. Step forward.
30-year-old marketing director Kirk Ryder says he loaned his bicycle to his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman, and it was stolen. So now Klaus should pay.
All right. Mr. Ryder, you say that you lent a bicycle to the defendant, and he had it in his possession for a long time, and then through his negligence, the bicycle was stolen. You want your money for the bicycle.
Well, I wanted a new bicycle, basically.
Did you
And-
lend him a new bicycle?
Pardon me? No, I
What
wanted
didn't you understand, sir?
I wanted my bicycle back.
Well, he couldn't give you your bicycle back.
Right. So we entered
So my
into.
question to you is, did you lend him a new bicycle?
No, I did not.
How old was the bicycle that you lent to him?
The bicycle was 3 years old.
And had you purchased it?
No,
How did you get it?
it was. I inherited it from my best friend who died.
And what kind of bicycle was this?
It was a Univega Via Modego, 15-speed hybrid bicycle.
What happened to a Schwinn?
I don't know.
Schwinns are more expensive now.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see they're still in business. At least it doesn't date me.
They are.
All right. So you had the bicycle for how long before you lent it to him?
I had the bicycles since July 1996 when my friend died. And Klaus borrowed it in or around November, I guess. I'm not even sure.
Well, then I gather you weren't using it much.
Well, I was traveling. I travel for a living, so
So
I don't know which trip he borrowed it before. He borrowed it because his car broke down in the desert, and he was using his bicycle to get around. Then the bicycle he was using that he owned broke, and I offered to lend him mine.
So far, does that sound right?
Yes, except for when he loaned it to me
When did he loan it to you?
in June, in the summer
Of 96.
of '96.
What happened to his bike?
It was stolen.
Mr. Pullman, you understand that the bike is in your possession, then you have a responsibility to either replace it or to give him some compensation for it.
He neglected the bicycle. He didn't want the bicycle. It didn't work. It sat in his dining room for 2 years while he was traveling.
Objection,
It didn't work.
Your Honor. What? Sorry. Well, he has no. That's speculation. He has no idea whether I wanted the bicycle or not. I, out of the goodness of my heart, lent him a bicycle that had some emotional value to me as well as physical value of getting around.
So it doesn't seem to me, I mean, have you been friends for long? It's just too bad that this bicycle is presenting a problem to you. Why don't you just replace the bicycle?
Because he didn't want the bicycle. He left it. I took care of it. I didn't neglect it. I locked it with my bike, with my roommate's bicycle. It was in my garage. All three were stolen. He didn't want it. He liked it in my garage and not in his dining room. That's why I had it for so long. He didn't want to come get it. He wouldn't let me return it. He travels a lot, so it was his schedule that was in question. I work at home. I'm always there. He neglected the bike. He gave it to me. He didn't give it to me. He loaned it to me. Asked
right.
me to keep it
He
for him.
loaned you the bike.
I took care of it.
Good.
I housed it.
Good.
It was stolen. It's out of my control.
Right.
He neglected the bike a year ago. He loaned it to me a year ago this month.
Your Honor. Your
Yes,
Honor.
well,
He moved 2 blocks away from my house when he
Doesn't make
moved
any
to West
difference,
Hollywood.
Mr. Pullman.
He could have returned it.
Mr.
And
Pullman.
also, wait, one more thing. I believe that he did neglect the bike because I lent him the bike with a kryptonite lock, and he did not use that lock. He used a chain which could be cut easily.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. Kirk Ryder says his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman should pay for the bicycle he borrowed because it was stolen while in his possession.
the only thing that I have to decide is on a value of this bicycle because you did not purchase it. To replace it is a problem because to replace it, what you're seeking is the full replacement value of the bike, which is, you say, $399 to replace a bike of similar quality. Is that what you indicated?
Which is actually less than the bike that was stolen is valued at.
Well, bicycles, listen to me, sir. Bicycles are not like diamonds. They don't appreciate
Right.
in value.
Oh, I know that.
They depreciate in value. So if it had been bought for $500, it depreciates probably 50% in the first year that somebody has it. So then we're down to $250. That's after 1 year. So you're not going to get anywhere near what this bicycle would cost new. But you have to pay something to him, sir. You accepted it into your care. That's what we call almost a bailment. Even if he was storing it at your house and you agreed to accept it for storage, right, you have a certain responsibility towards it. You said something about this lock.
It's a standard bicycle kryptonite lock. He loaned it to me with the bicycle, but he didn't loan me the key.
So what'd you do with his lock?
The lock is with the bicycle. It stayed with the bicycle. It has a holder for it.
Okay.
Which
There's
I
a
couldn't,
lock.
which
There
I
was
couldn't get off without a key.
A tire pump and also a water bottle and cage. All accessories to the bike, which
Mr.
added to
Ryder,
the value.
Mr. Ryder, stop getting so excited. It's a bicycle. It's a bicycle that you didn't ride and you didn't miss for a
I
year.
did ride, Your Honor.
You're irritating me. Listen to me. From the time you lent it to him until March of this year, according to your own statement, you really did not make a request for this bike.
I made one request.
Wait, so evidently
No,
it
I
wasn't
made two. I made two.
Evidently, it wasn't something that was right at the forefront, the signpost on your face. You know, it was
Well,
just
I didn't
a piece.
ride it because it wasn't in my possession. I had loaned it to a friend. That's why I was not riding the bicycle.
And your friend is going to give you $150 that you can use towards purchasing a new bike. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $150. That's all.
Excuse you, may step out.
Judge Judy continues.